Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Folks, if you're just joining us, I just recorded like 3 minutes without recording the audio. So, rookie move.
At least we caught it.
Yeah.
It's better than 3 hours not recording.
I did that with Marissa.
Really?
Yeah. Welcome to the Dangerous, Stupid, Irresponsible, Foolish podcast. Chad, living the van life. Folks, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm stoked to be here.
Absolutely. We've been talking about doing this for a minute.
Yep.
I think like 4 times today, and finally we just said, fuck it. Let's record this.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wing it.
Just start throwing stuff at it.
Yeah. So what brings you to Colorado this trip? Because you were just out here last fall for VanWILD.
Yep.
And I haven't really seen you much except Overland Expo and Flagstaff.
I think so, yeah. A few like agile events here and there, but yeah, we're always catching up in crossing and
various van community gatherings of some sort.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I spent like 2 years ago, I spent a couple months out here in Colorado. August, September, the weather was perfect.
Yep.
It was super cool. And I've been wanting to get back. I made it out for VanWILD a year ago. The dates unfortunately crossed with some Baja racing that I had going, so I had to come for the tail end of it just to catch up for the Rim Rocker Trail and then the event Grand Junction, because it's always been a good time hanging out with you guys. So
yeah, you were at the 250 last fall, right?
that was the Baja 400 last fall.
It was the 400 last fall. Okay.
Yep.
So Will went down there, my ops manager, went down there to race last year, or not to race, to watch the race last year. Missed VanWILD, got out of all the work associated with putting on an event.
Yep.
And then this year he went and raced the Baja, the 500.
That's awesome.
Recently.
So he watched the 400 and that inspired him to go race.
Well, he's been watching it for years.
Okay.
I guess he's been going down there a lot and has watched it for a while, and then finally went and raced it. Ironman the 500.
Dude.
And then hasn't touched the freaking dirt bike since he got back.
Is that right?
I'm like, let's go riding. He's like, no.
Not happening.
No. I think he kind of messed his foot up a little bit. And his bike is still pretty beat up.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely needed a little break. He's like, I don't even want to look at a dirt bike right now.
I can imagine that on a bike that it would just be hellacious. And the Ironman guys, dude, those guys are something else. I had the opportunity to work on the sequel to Dust to Glory.
Oh, cool.
Which the original film back in 2005, like, was a huge inspiration. That was the first time I really saw any Baja racing. And as a guy that was always into moto and filmmaking and stuff, I watched the original Dust to Glory, and that like set me on fire.
Right.
I always wanted to go to Baja. So I had the opportunity to work with Dana Brown on the sequel, and it was the story of the Ironman guys that really stuck in my head. We were assigned to the start line and the finish line, which actually really ended up being a cool opportunity because there's just so many stories that you hear of the guys coming in off the finish line.
Right.
And those Ironman guys, they would come in just completely zombified. They didn't know where they were. They didn't know. They couldn't hold up their bikes. They're literally just falling off their bikes. That was for the 1,000 that I worked. And so I've always had mad respect for the guys that'll do the Ironman.
Well, he did some training before he went.
Okay.
And he kind of went to the gym a bit and drank a lot less beers, after work. And we went and rode quite a bit after work during the week, and he'd go out like every weekend and ride. But, he still has a 9-to-5 job. I mean, and it's more like, 40, 50 hours a week job.
Yeah.
That he worked right up until he had to leave. So it's not like he was a professional athlete training and recovering and resting like he should.
Yeah.
And yeah, he went down there and it wasn't off the couch, but kind of off the couch.
Yeah.
And did the, pre-ran 3 days and then did the 500.
Wow.
And I think it was 17 and a half hours was his finish time.
Yep.
And he's like, I don't know how the fuck those guys do the 1,000. There's no way.
Well, it's quite interesting. And that's one thing in the last few years that I've been involved with racing down in Baja is learning the ins and outs of like each different race. And you always think of like the Baja 1000 being the granddaddy of them all, which it is. It's 1,000 miles nonstop. It's the longest nonstop point-to-point race in the world. And then you've got the Baja 250, which happens in March, but any racer down in Baja will tell you like the 250 is one of the toughest races. You think it's the shortest, but it is like 250 miles of whoops out through the desert.
Gotcha.
And when the 1,000, it kind of spreads out a little bit, and you've got a lot longer, straighter roads because you're covering a lot of territory. They got to be able to get guys through. So each race has such a unique stance, personality. Yeah. And so it's been cool being involved. So mad respect for Will just going down there and sending it. That's pretty rad. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk to him about it. It'd be fun to sit down and BS with him. Yeah,
like 5 weeks before, maybe 6 weeks tops. He goes, "Hey, I meant to talk to you about vacation next month." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was kind of wanting to race the 500, so I was hoping to take off like a week and a half, in the middle of spring, busy season." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. We'll do that." And he's like, "I mean, you could come race it with me."
And then
I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that'd be super fun." And then I started just doing the math in my head, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't. There's no way we can leave the shop, myself and the ops manager, for a week and a half. There's just no way."
Yeah.
It's
a commitment.
I'm like, maybe next year. We'll see.
Something to set your sights on.
It was super cool to like watch the lead up and then hear about it, watch the live stream and all that. And I was super pumped on it. Yeah. And I've definitely been interested in it, but I've never done any desert racing. I think you and I were talking a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I was always a road race guy.
Yeah.
And an asphalt guy. So the desert thing, after watching and kind of getting into Baja a little bit more, definitely excited me. And then, 2 weekends ago, I went and watched Pikes Peak hill climb.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, fuck, asphalt's where it's at. It's like definitely my passion. So, yeah, that was super cool. And you've covered that too, right? You filmed that race? Yeah,
I've had the opportunity to go up and film the Pikes Peak race. That was back in like 2014 and was super stoked for that opportunity. Just that's kind of the cool thing of like being behind a camera. It's just allowed me so many opportunities that I just normally probably wouldn't have taken.
Yeah.
And Pikes Peak race was one of them. And that's a cool experience, man. That's gnarly.
So there was still dirt on that course at the time, or was it paved all the way?
No, it was paved all the way. And I can't remember what year it was. Well, I want to say for some reason it was like 2010 when they paved it. But yeah, no, it was paved all the way. Yeah. Which, dude, I can imagine doing that stuff on dirt. That's a whole nother scenario.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to be all paved and they're racing those crazy tight turns. You get that elevation and those cliffs, dude.
Yeah, there's no forgiveness.
No.
Yeah.
Imagine on dirt.
Yeah. We were, so I got the invite from Santiago at Rogue Vans, and he's like 2 days before, "Hey, would you like to go to Pikes Peak?" Fuck yeah, I want to go to Pikes Peak. What are you talking about? I was just going to go camping or something instead. Or what was I going to do? I had canceled a van show. I was going to go to Hood River, but I had a guy quit like the week before or a few days before I was going to leave for that trip. So I called Neil and was like, "Dude, I'm not making it to the van show.
Oh yeah.
We're bowed up here."
Yeah.
And I can't, originally I was going to leave like on a Wednesday, get all the way up there.
Yeah.
So when Santiago hit me up and was like, "Hey, you want to go watch Pikes Peak?" I'm like, "Dude, that's just a weekend. I can do that. It's here in Colorado. Like I can make this happen." So I jumped on it, and we were technically supporting XComp, who I guess that they work with a lot on the van side for tires and stuff.
Oh, sure.
So they set up at the Fan Fest downtown, had their big yellow van set up down there for people to look through, and all the cars were on the streets, and it's a super cool vibe.
Yeah.
So we hung out there for that. And then Saturday was kind of a bit of an off day until the afternoon when you go up and kind of set up the pits and stuff. So Saturday afternoon, we hung out at the pits, watched the guys get set up. And then we drove up to the top of the mountain, and we were like, "Oh, we're a crew. We got crew passes. We're helping, dude. Whatever." So we get up to the top, check out the summit, and then go back down to Devil's Playground. And there were some other volunteers there, and we just kind of rolled in with the vans, and it kind of looked like we knew what we were doing. And we're like, "Hey, yeah, we're on crew, whatever. We're just gonna stay up here, right, and be up here for tomorrow." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever, dude. We don't care. We're drinking beers." So we just snuck the vans off to the edge of the Devil's Playground in a nice quiet spot and set up camp and had fire, had dinner. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
And it was super peaceful. And then we woke up in the morning to cars going by, you know, at 7:30 when they open the course.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, it started. It's time to get up. The exhibition class was going.
Okay.
So we get up and I like open the slider door and there's just hundreds of vehicles and people up there. I'm like, holy shit. So all those people had shuffled in overnight.
Yeah.
I think people line up at like midnight.
Yeah.
To start getting up the mountain. So
Yeah.
it was a weird crowd because normally racing, everybody's super pumped and it's kind of really energetic and everything's charged. And you could tell everyone was pretty tired,
Yeah.
but also pretty respectful too of the drivers and like what they were up against. And I really didn't see any crazy partying. It was like the most tame, respectful kind of race crowd that I'd ever seen.
Yeah, it's interesting. My experience was the same thing, like, and especially for the racers that have been out there all week because it's practice, you know, all week, and they do different sections of the mountain at different times
Right.
throughout the week. So most of those race teams have been getting up at 1 a.m. for like a week straight.
And oh, by the way,
go do
you're
that.
at, you know, almost 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
So that wears on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Even just being there as a film crew, I was just like, I couldn't imagine even being a racer.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good buddy of mine, he just set the diesel record last year. He's got like the fastest diesel.
What was the
there.
car?
So it's like a kind of like a time attack car. I don't know. He had a name for it. I used to know it at one point. But it's super aerodynamic. It's got a wing on it, but he's running like a little TDI motor on it.
Okay.
Volkswagen. That thing's fast as heck. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's the one that did the diesel conversion in my Volkswagen van. So we put a TDI motor.
Yeah,
in.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see what won this year?
No,
The Ford Lightning pickup truck.
Oh yeah, the electric,
Yeah.
right?
Dude, it's super crazy to watch that.
Yeah.
And you hear the siren because you can't hear the motor until you get close.
Yeah.
But you hear a siren coming up the mountain. You're like, what the heck is that? And it's this Ford Lightning. And then as he gets closer, you start to really kind of notice, like, dude, this thing is moving.
Yeah.
And it's mostly the acceleration that you really notice it, like coming out of a corner and just accelerating so quickly.
Yeah.
And we're at Devil's Playground, I think you're 13.5, somewhere in that range. It's
Yeah.
pretty high. So most of the naturally aspirated stuff and even the turbo cars, they're still down on power a lot.
Yeah.
And that thing was unaffected. I
Yep.
mean, it comes out of the corner and it is just unbelievably fast. And we didn't know it at the time because I didn't have the broadcast playing. I didn't have a radio or anything. So we're just watching. I'm like, holy shit, that truck was fast. And
Yeah.
come to find out, it won. And not only did it win, it had a mechanical at the bottom and had to like Control-Alt-Delete for 26 seconds.
Oh no way! And that
On
was
the
part.
like,
and that was
stop.
part of the time.
Yes. And they still beat everybody.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about electric is it's not affected by the elevation at all. Like there's no tuning because they start at 5,000 feet, 4,000 feet. They start at relatively low.
Yeah, what is this? I thought it was higher than that. It has more like 7, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I know it's like some crazy compared to where they finish. It's so normal like gas powered cars
Yeah.
and stuff have a hard time
Oh, yeah.
with that tuning, whereas electric, that all goes out the window.
Right.
And it's also interesting too because you hear the grip of the tires, you hear the wind moving instead of that's all like deleted by the sound of an engine typically. We've done a bunch of film work out at Bonneville Salt Flats
Yep.
and the land speed racing out there. And the few times that I got to experience an electric car hauling ass through there was pretty crazy. It was this big streamline vehicle, all aerodynamic, looks like jet fuselage basically. And they were going like in the 300 mile an hour, 400 mile an hour, something like that. And normally you hear a car coming. And this one you couldn't really hear because of no engine noise, but that thing just moving, all of a sudden you see it, it goes by you, and the crazy thing, all you really hear, and it's so loud, is just the displacement of air because there's no engine just going. So
What does that sound like?
it almost sounds like a jet. It starts because they're moving so much air. It's that real low, just,
Okay.
but it's just no
That's weird.
no engine sound. It's crazy. Electric
Wow.
stuff's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Teslas out there, you know, the Plaids, I wish they were cooler.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're so fast, and they're so fun to drive.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really want to drive a Plaid.
Yeah.
But goddamn, that technology is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast they are. A buddy of mine's got a couple Teslas. He's got like a Model 3 and then the Cybertruck. And the Cybertruck is even faster than the Model 3, which is crazy that big old honking
7,000 pounds or 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
I never really liked how they looked, but I did see one when I was down in Scottsdale for the Owl Open House.
Yeah.
That was all murdered out, like matte black vinyl,
Okay.
blacked out tint, black wheels.
Damn.
And I was like, okay, that actually looks pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool to see some people doing different stuff with them, you know.
Yeah,
whether
some
they're
people are
wrapping
shooting them with arrows and guns, and
Yeah.
other people are wrapping them, making them look bitchin'.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy, smart business move. He's got the star mounts that does all the Starlink stuff for the vans and stuff. Brandon. And he ordered one like back in 2019.
Oh, I've seen that one actually on his website.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah. It's like a chrome red. But what a great marketing thing. Like as soon as he got it, he was like, nope, I got to slap his logo on it, because everywhere you drive in that thing, dude, people are just gawking and taking pictures.
Oh, yeah.
So when you got your business logo on there,
Yep.
great advertising.
Dude, wrapping a vehicle is the best advertising.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You do the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, I do it pretty like tame.
Yeah,
I try to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
it low key.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, so it appeals to like the grandmas and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah, just
the
like
older
the
generation.
Yeah, the general population.
Yeah, I get
really
it.
resonates with that.
Hilarious.
Dude, what do we do today? You worked on your van.
Yep.
Get
Yeah.
your rack, your one-up swing arm
Yep.
put on, your custom bike rack. So now you can, what is it? A Husky 501S,
Yep.
right? That
Yep.
you're hauling on it, which, by the way, we went riding Saturday
Saturday and
and
all
Sunday
weekend.
on the
Yeah.
Uncompahgre.
Yeah.
Epic.
Super epic.
Mud fest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, you had your bike on the back of the van. I took my bike on the back of my van. We had like a full-on moto camp setup. It was pretty rad. And then
Yeah.
Steve rocked up with 2 bikes in his big 170 extended.
Yeah. So
we had quite a crew.
we had quite the range of vans and motos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, everything from TE 300s to YZ 450s to 501.
501, yeah.
Blasting.
Yeah.
We got there and it was pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Like it didn't look all that wet. Like, you know, the dirt looked muddy but doable.
Yeah.
And we thought, yeah, this will work. And then I think Steve showed up 40 minutes later, and pretty soon it just started pouring. Like by the time we put the helmets on, it was fucked out there. And we took off, and Chad's, you know, he told us this afterwards, but you're like, what the hell are we doing? Just like not having fun. Nice clean bike, completely trashed immediately upon starting a ride.
Well, most of my background had always been racing moto. And if it was wet, moto was 90% of the time was canceled.
Yep.
You know, so it was always like fair weather riding. So done a little bit of trail riding, and I show up with you guys, and it like starts raining. I'm like, okay, cool. Like we'll probably just hang out until, and everybody's like, all right, it's raining, suit up, let's go. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like, okay, but you know, you can't be the pussy. Like you got to just roll with it.
Yeah,
and like, so jump on and we go. And like, then it really started pouring.
I mean, within the first 10 minutes, as we're riding up the 2-track up there, it just starts pouring.
Yes.
Where everybody's just taking their goggles off and turning them backwards, and immediately your boots are just full of water. You're completely soaked.
Yeah.
We were both rocking Talon's jacket, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Talon.
Talon, what up?
Thanks for the rain protection.
Yeah. Yeah. Good moto gear, dude.
It actually worked really well. I mean, I think you still got a little wet just coming down through the collar and stuff, but honestly, it worked really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, gear shout out to Talon. Your discontinued jackets, please restart that line.
Keep sending them our way. We'll take the leftovers.
Yeah.
I know I washed mine the other day. It actually it looks new again.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah.
Dude, I had to put the boots on the dryer for like 4 cycles to get them
Really?
dry. Yeah, they were terrible.
I set mine out in the sun today because I pressure washed them yesterday and set them out in the sun. They were still wet today, so hopefully they're dry by now.
Dude, I think I washed the bike twice. It was Yeah. Oh, that's what we did. Saturday, we worked on bikes most of the day
Oh yeah.
in the shop.
Yep. In the morning.
Yep. You added, what did you add to your bars?
I did the Mako 360, so it's like the bars. It's the bar mount that is all like rubber mounted, and been reading a lot about those, especially on like the KTM 500s and the Husky 501s. Like they just got a lot of vibration,
The big singles, yeah,
come through, and plus like that's just the nature of riding, right? It's like when you're pounding through those trails, like a lot of that just comes up into your arms. A lot of people who have been riding for a lot of years start complaining about wrists and carpal tunnel type stuff, and I don't have any of that, knock on wood, but I figure a little preventative maintenance might not be bad, so
Yeah.
I put some bar mounts on there that are supposed to be pretty good.
Nice.
And it actually made a big difference. Like, didn't really get the arm pump too bad.
everything else was sore.
Everything else, dude. By the time, so Tim and I, we went out and rode Sunday. Luckily, it was a lot drier, but still a lot of mud.
Sunday
in
was
places.
perfect though, really.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some greasy spots, but the weather overall was
Yeah.
like mint. I was glad we stayed up there.
was
And
good.
I really didn't want to ride Sunday, honestly, because all my gear was wet.
Yeah.
I was like putting on soggy boots, and my bike was dirty, which I don't like starting on a dirty bike.
But there again, you can't be the pussy and sit
No,
down, right?
so I was like,
can't complain about it.
Chad was like geared up, ready. Like, let's go. I'm like, fuck. All right, here we go.
Yep,
And Sunday was awesome.
it was,
Yeah.
Let's see, we did 35 miles day one on Saturday. That was after working on bikes all day.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't start riding until 6,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we basically got back in the dark. So 35 miles. And it's like, you think 35 miles, that's not long. But then when you consider the terrain that we rode, like for me, I don't have a ton of experience in that very much. Probably I've got more experience. I was thinking about this, more experience on mountain bike and that kind of terrain than I do
Than
on
dirt bikes.
Than dirt bikes. And
Sure.
it's kind of two different animals. I mean, a lot of it translates over, but you're talking a 250 plus pound motorcycle versus in my case, my mountain bike, I think is like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Mountain bike.
Yeah.
So it's a little different handling that big old bike through there.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, 35 miles of that in the rain.
Mud.
Mud.
Yep.
And, but it was fun. I ended up having a ton of fun. And then, yeah, when we went Sunday, that was 40 miles. So we did, no, what did I say? No, yeah.
40 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday.
35 miles the first day, 40
Yep.
miles the second day. So a total of 75.
That was good. It was
Yeah.
a good ride.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I woke up Monday not ready to go to work. Like very sore.
Yeah.
Everything's still dirty.
I got to admit, I slept in pretty good on Monday morning, but it was good. It was well needed. I feel good now, though.
Yeah. It's not bad. Recovered
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Well, I've been on the bike, gosh, just about every day for the last 2 weeks straight. Like there's been a few off days in between, just kind of recovery days or whatever. But it's like I feel good about it. I feel like everything kind of coming back into shape a little
How
bit.
long has it been since you've really ridden much?
So I raced from like 1998 through probably 2005, 2006 was probably like the last race. And then the bike sat around for a while and I got into mountain biking. I rode a mountain bike a lot from like 06 all the way to probably 2012, which was cool. That like translated over from racing moto. Like we were riding a lot up at Whistler, like the big downhill stuff.
Yep.
And that was like just like doing motocross tracks downhill. So that was cool.
Right.
But sold all the dirt bikes and got into like filming motorcycles, and so I spent more time behind the camera, still around motorcycles, but not riding them.
Yep.
And every once in a while I would jump on one and rip around. Like 2 years ago on a Rimrocker
Yeah.
trail, you brought the dirt bikes out. And I was like, oh, let me jump on that, see if I still got a wheelie in me. And like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. We got some shots.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was super fun.
Yep.
And it's always blown me away. Like you can have a period of time off a motorcycle. So for me, it was probably, gosh, at least a good 10 years with
Yeah.
maybe a few rides in between there. Nothing super serious on a regular basis. It always blows me away how you can jump back on the bike and it's like you never left.
Yeah.
Like you might be a little bit out of shape here and there.
Yeah. Or just some of the fine points of the technique are just a little bit off.
Yep.
But yeah, I did the same thing with road racing. You know, quit road racing the big bikes in like 2013 was last season.
Yep.
And just pretty much quit cold turkey, anything motorcycle for a while. And then I got a dirt bike and then a supermoto and started riding supermoto. And immediately it was just like, all of a sudden it was fast again. You
Yeah.
know, like it had never gone away.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to get back on the road race bike now and see like lap times.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
see how it would compare.
Yeah. So do you still have a road race bike?
I don't have a proper road race bike. I have a street bike. I have a Yamaha MT-10 that I like to ride, but
Yep.
you know, it's not even track prepped, and that's kind of by design.
Yeah.
So I'm not tempted to just go to the track because if I go, here's the deal. It sounds like Dave right now. Here's the deal. If I go to the track, I'm gonna want to start racing again.
Oh, yeah.
And then all my money's gone.
Oh,
All my
yeah.
time's gone, and
Yeah.
and I don't have either of those right now to support a race habit. So it's like a drug
Yeah.
addiction. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Even just getting back into moto, I'm like, okay, I had a budget set for myself buying a bike, and it was like relatively reasonable. And then somebody was like, well, you know, if you're buying a used bike, you probably shouldn't buy anything with, you know, more than X amount of hours.
Yeah.
So then I started, okay, like that's probably good advice coming from who it was. And so next thing I know, my budget had doubled just to get the bike. And then it doesn't just end with getting the bike.
Dude, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
The gear and the transport
Yep.
and all of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, where did we go? Oh, yeah. We made a trip to Van Moose here in town to get some parts.
Yeah.
I needed a tube, and I walked out like $200 later. Like,
Yep.
what the heck happened here?
Yep. Yeah, you left the shop like, oh, I'm going to go get a tube. And I'm like, oh, I'll go with you and like go see what they
Yeah.
got. And same thing I left with, I don't know how many. Yep.
It's so bad.
It's the way it always goes.
Yeah.
And like with mine, you know, I was always moto based. Mountain biking probably got me more interested in doing more of the single track like what we did the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But with mixing it into the van stuff and doing van life, you know, I take my van out and I go do all this really fun stuff with it. And I get myself into these territories where it'd be like, dude, there's only so far a van could go. Now, what would it be like if I had a bike on board and go? And so I've been watching stuff online and getting inspired by other people doing this stuff. And so now I'm like wanting to pack it all up with like dual sport stuff to be able to do multi-day excursions. You know, basically what I learned to do in a van 14 years ago, doing on a bike. Like, ooh, could I sustain myself on a bike for X amount of days and really go find some adventure? So I've been investing in the gear and like learning how backpackers do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
like bike packing kind of guys.
Well, yeah, even just straight up backpackers that are hiking, like through hikers are the best. These guys that do the PCT and they're hiking for 6 months, dude. They're going from Mexico to Canada with like shit that they got on their back. So, you know, all the ultralight stuff.
Dude, that's why God invented vans, man.
I know, right?
You don't have to walk, people.
True. So a lot of that concept of how to pack very light really translates well over to the bike because we know how nice it is to get on a bike that's just like you have no backpack on, you just got you and your gear and your blank bike and you can go.
Dude, it's like after you've been adventure riding for a week or something, or, you know, a bunch of adventure riding trips and you got the backpack or the vest and all the gear and the bags and shit on the bike and all the stuff, right? And the heavy gear, the big coat and all that. And then you go ride motocross and you're like knee braces, boots, and a helmet. And you're like, I feel naked. This is amazing. You're just blasting around and it feels wrong. You're like, dude, where's all the gear? Yeah. It's so nice.
So that's what I've been trying to like figure out, all the stuff to pack super light. Like, you know, tiny little sleeping pad and pillow. That's the thing, dude. Like ever since I started sleeping in a van 14 years ago, I told myself I will never sleep in a tent again. Yeah. And here I am getting into this, like, I want to go dual sport riding and overnight camping, and I'm going to have to learn how to camp on the ground again.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Dude, that's terrible. It sounds terrible. It's like the Grenadier world. You know, all these guys are doing these trips now. Oh, yeah. Mike Reed's trying to get me to do this Grenadier trip. We're going to do one in October, but he's like, hey, we should do a ride from your shop over the Unk, and we'll do a couple of nights of camping along the way, and it'll be overland style, you know, in the Grenadiers. You got to sleep either in them or on the ground. And I'm like, dude, I literally have like 2 amazing vans built specifically for that. Why would I sleep on the ground? That sounds terrible. Right.
You know, one of the most inspiring stories that I've read recently was Dan Greck, and it's a book called The Road Chose Me. And it's about his trip down the Pan American Highway. He was from Australia, set up life in Canada. He got this idea that he wanted to do the Pan American. So being so close to Alaska, he started up there and did it in a Jeep Wrangler, I want to say. Just a little 2-door, small one. And just did things basic like with a tent. He slept outside of it. Didn't have a roof rack or anything like that. Right. Most of the time he didn't have a top on. A top on the Jeep. Yeah. And
oh my God, he can't hear anything now, probably.
So he did the whole thing, and his book, The Road Chose Me, is all about that adventure. And so it's inspiring to hear somebody like that. And I think he spent, probably over 6 months, maybe up to a year, doing that whole thing, sleeping in a tent, very minimally, out of a Jeep. So I read stories like that, and I'm like, all right, dude, yeah, you can.
I can suck it up for a couple nights.
Yeah, exactly.
Camp off the bike, yeah.
No,
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm really
I think,
trying to embrace it.
Now I'm thinking about it. Maybe for VanWILD, we need to do a drive/moto instead of having the moto experience where people just go to like Peach Valley or to the Unk, Dry Creek or something, and kind of leave it a parking lot. Maybe they make it a destination. They kind of go out a ways in the van and then go ride.
Oh yeah,
that might be cool.
Yeah. Then you're kind of mixing
them up a little bit. Yeah.
So the last couple of years, I know you've done the moto experience. What have you been doing for the VanWILD events and the moto experience?
Yeah, so Mike Reed's helped out a bunch with that, coming down and basically just taking people out to ride, kind of gauging where they're at for skill level, and then taking them up on appropriate terrain, but just public lands in the area. Some really cool spots. I mean, as you've seen, there's some incredible riding up here. Yeah. Obviously, there's some trail closures that time of year, so we have to be mindful of that and group size and all that. But he knows the area really well, and so he's been taking people out in like a small group to ride. And then Nicola has been to VanWILD, I think the last 2 years in a row, actually. Okay. And he brought his adventure bike out last year, and he led like an adventure bike ride right from camp a couple days in a row, and they went out and hammered a ton of miles.
Is that right?
And the year prior, him and Steve went and did the same deal. They just took off one morning, and like a Saturday morning, and rode like 7 different mountain passes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow, that's.
And they came back just absolutely smoked, but they were like, "Dude, it was insane. It was awesome. They like hit as many passes as they could. During the day.
That's cool. That's a cool thing about right here, dude. Is like there's so much.
Everything is here.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible spot for sure. I mean, you got Moab, 3 hours west of here.
Yep.
More Rockies east of here. It's the San Juans.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and right where we're at, kind of nested up against the San Juans, still high desert, so we don't really get that much moisture here. I mean, the spring's been a bit of an exception with all the monsoon type rains, but usually in the winter, you might get a few snows that stick around for a couple of days. Might have to plow the parking lot maybe 6-7 times a year. Yeah. But usually it snows, and the snow's pretty much gone the next day or a couple days after. Yeah. It's pretty temperate. And then you can drive an hour and get on top of the world's largest flat top mountain and go snowmobiling for miles and miles and miles and never see another person.
Dang.
It's insane.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really why I wanted to come out here and spend more time. It's like everywhere else in the country right now is like super hot. And when I was out here 2 years ago and I spent a couple months, I was just like blown away by how cool the temperatures are when you get up in the higher elevations. And I kind of thought of like the snowbird people that, spend the winter time down in Arizona, but then they drive up to Canada, the Pacific Northwest for the summertime. I'm like, y'all are driving right past Colorado.
Prime country.
Yeah, it's like right here. It's so nice and cool. So this year, that was my goal, to come out here and experience that again. And there's just so much cool exploration out here.
Endless, man. Endless, both on the van and the bike. I mean, I think with those two tools, you can see almost everything you want to see. Yeah. Obviously, there's still some like peaks and stuff you'd have to hike to. Yeah. But my God, you can cover some territory. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up, I originally was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I spent the first 10 years as a kid living down there. And my parents would take us kids out camping. And we lived in the desert, and we'd go up into the mountains of New Mexico and go camping to kind of escape the heat of the desert. And so did a lot of dirt roads and exploring and like Hemis area, or what's that called?
Gila.
Gila. Okay.
Gila,
sure.
yeah, we did a lot up in the Gila Wilderness, or Gila National Forest, I should say, up in there. Beautiful high desert country up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Washington, and Western Washington. Most people think all of Washington's all rainforest.
Dude, it's two different worlds.
Yeah.
Because I grew up Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out in Spokane.
Yeah.
Which is like beautiful high desert
Yep.
type stuff. Probably pretty similar to what it's.
Yeah, I would say that the Tri-Cities, like Central Washington, is very similar to here.
Okay, yeah.
Climate-wise, soil, all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, Spokane's like a very four-season-y kind of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Western Washington, when it came to like going and driving dirt roads, like it was all logging roads over there. So you find a dirt road that you could go explore on. It's going to go a couple miles and dead end, or you're going to hit a gate.
Sure.
So we could go into Eastern Washington, then you could start finding dirt roads that would actually go somewhere. That's when I started discovering my love for just traveling on dirt roads. Is like you could go from town to town on dirt roads. Like that's cool. That was one thing that I love about the Southwest down here, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, is like the roads go places.
Yeah.
And that's where you can really get into whether it's overlanding in a 4x4 or in a van, or even now on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that was why one of the big reasons I wanted to come out to Colorado is for that opportunity of just exploring.
Yeah.
And up here, like you said, you can go from pass to pass and you're crossing mountain ranges.
And we get so spoiled, just so used to the accessibility of public land. And I think we were talking the other day about some time I spent in Texas working down there and trying to go ride adventure bikes in Texas. And it's like, where the heck do you go? I mean, there's so few places down there that has public land, that has any sort of hills or trails. I mean, it's just, when you compare it to Colorado, it just doesn't compare at all.
100%.
It's like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know if I could live down there. It'd be rough.
Yeah.
Have to come up with a different sport.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Texas is a good example that seems to really lack on the public lands. And, you know, in Washington, I mean, there's like a lot of national forests. There's not a ton of BLM land. I don't think there's any on the western side that I can think of.
Yeah. I remember growing up out there and riding dirt bikes, and it was like the motocross track or the OHV area, which was maybe, I don't know, a couple 100 acres. So not very big.
Yeah.
And those were kind of the two spots near where I lived, like within an hour or so.
Yeah.
That was really it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, the OHV area is like that's a pretty badass big riding spot. And then you come out to Colorado and you're like, holy crap, as far as you can ride in a day and it's still public land, and you can just keep going. It's incredible.
Well, that's been the cool thing about exploring the Southwest in the vans, especially living on the road full time, and you're traveling through these areas, you're road tripping and just covering territory. You need a spot to sleep. Like with the technology that we have today with these GPS maps, Gaia, Onyx, and stuff like that, they make it so easy to see exactly where all the BLM and public lands are. And so it's so easy just to find a spot. Like BLM's great because you can just find a BLM land and you can basically do whatever you want within reason.
Yep.
Obviously, you can pull off, you can stay there, you can have a fire, be respectful of it, but it's it's cool that it's just there, man. And like people over in the East Coast don't get to experience that. They don't have any of that kind of stuff.
No, dude. I went over there this winter to I did like an install training for air lockers.
Okay.
And my uncle lives in Boston. Where's the East Boston? So across the harbor.
Okay.
From like downtown Boston.
Yeah.
So I flew into Boston, got an Uber to his place, and he's got like a beautiful apartment that overlooks the harbor. It's super peaceful. You wake up in the morning, drink coffee, and just watch the merchant ships come in.
Oh, cool.
It's really freaking cool.
Wow.
I got some incredible shots from his apartment complex, like just of the harbor.
Cool.
So it felt super weird going from here to like overlooking Boston Harbor.
Yeah.
And then exploring around that city was so cool with all the history and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent, a couple of days driving around the States there, visiting some dealers of ours and, just seeing some other van shops. And it blew me away how, again, little public land there was and how, little you could see from the road. Because you could drive for hours and you can't see anything but trees.
Yeah.
So you really have no perspective on like, well, where did I go?
Yeah.
You just have some undulations in the road. There's trees. There's
Yeah.
more trees. There's a bunch of cars. There's a bunch of assholes that drive like assholes, and there's more trees. And out here, if you go drive for 3 hours, you're going to pass, the big mountain, the big bluff, the Red Rock Desert, like these set landmarks, and you really can feel that you're traveling somewhere, right? Because you just feel the train coming by you. And out there, it was really weird to me to just like drive all day and not really know where you were. There's no good reference.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's the way I've always felt about Washington. Now, in Washington, you got big mountains. It's beautiful up in the Cascades. It's amazing. But really, when you get in on these roads and you're exploring, you get in the deep woods and it's like so claustrophobic. Now, and it's cool. It's special being in these big trees.
Yeah.
But one thing I've always felt about the desert, when you got to the desert and things open up, it's so much less claustrophobic, and it really invites exploration, because you can see, wow, look at it, let's go over there. And then you can pretty much almost just drive a straight line there. And it really is so much less claustrophobic, exactly like what you're saying.
Yeah.
In the desert, you can go places.
I do like the desert a lot. I always, we always have those conversations where you're like, hey, would you rather be, stuck in a cabin in the mountains, or like on a ski mountain, or like where's your ultimate ideal place if you had to lock yourself into one spot?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to do that, but I like to be able to travel, right? But if you had to be in one spot, where would you pick?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'd be high desert for sure.
Yep. High desert. Yeah, it's kind of the mix in between. Like, there's some desolate desert out there, dude.
That's pretty rough, pretty gnarly.
Yeah, and it's interesting to experience it. I've always, that's one reason why I've gone to the Arctic twice in the wintertime, was just to experience these desolate areas, and coming out to some of the crazy areas like out in Utah, where it's like super desolate desert, kind of opposite of what you get from the Arctic. But it's cool to experience that. It makes you appreciate the diversity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Arctic, man, dude. Don't get me started.
I did. You spent time up there too.
Oh yeah. But not on purpose. I mean, well, I guess it was on purpose because I took the job. But yeah, it was just funny when Talon was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to Alaska." I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. I think Alaska's so incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
But it changes completely when you are forced to be in that locate. I was obviously north of the Arctic Circle there on the North Slope. It's pretty rough in the wintertime. You just can't be, like, you've experienced, right? You can't be outside. It's unsurvivable.
Yep.
It's just, you cannot be out there.
Yep.
And that's pretty tough for somebody like me to have to be stuck inside.
Yeah.
And, you have no option.
Well, it was interesting. The few people that I met up there while I was there in the wintertime, and hearing the stories of just how they lived life. You go, what were they doing? I think they were doing like 3 weeks on and 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I did 3 weeks and 3 weeks.
3 weeks and 3 weeks, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're not allowed to spend more time up there. Like, some guys are like, no, dude, I'll do like 6 months straight and I'll just make a ton of money and then I'm out. Right. But you're not allowed to, from what I understand, is like they make you leave to stave off the craziness.
Dude, honestly, I've never been depressed like that.
Yeah.
Some guys love it. It's like a career move, and that's why I took that position, was for career advancement. Things in the States were kind of winding down in that industry.
Yeah.
And I'd been with the company for about 10 years, so I had built a good reputation, and I was able to get that position from somebody who had retired.
Oh wow.
And there was like 6 of us in the US that ran those tools that we were drilling, and so it was like a big deal. I was super pumped, like, dude, I got this awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
And I went up there and was all excited.
Did you start in the summertime or in the wintertime? When you first started?
Wintertime.
Oh, okay. So you jumped right into the heat of it.
It was super dumb. Yeah. But and I could get over the weather and the remote locations and all that. I've been in the military. I've been stuck on a ship for months. The people were really hard for me. I didn't really have like a good core group of friends up there, and all anybody talks about is work. And yeah, I think the combination of everything just kind of got me pretty bummed. But if I hadn't done that, like if I would have just stayed working in the U.S. land, down here, I probably never would have started the business.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I would have, maybe not. But
it's part of the foundation of what.
I really didn't like it. You know, I knew myself well enough to know, like, I got to get out of here. This is not for me. This is not healthy for me.
Yeah.
So I quit when COVID happened. They said, hey, we're not drilling for the rest of the year. I was like, cool, I'm out. Thinking, oh, I'll just probably go back to work in like a year here in Colorado or something in the U.S. and go back to normal life. But, you know, I don't sit around very well. So I started the business as kind of a hobby. And then.
So that wasn't that long ago that you were up there on the North Slope then?
No, 2020.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what's interesting is like that I found about it up there is it seemed like some sort of operation that you would find in space or on like on another planet. Kind of like you watch the movie Martian, you know, and like how they had these little facilities where, you know, you could survive in this facility, but if you need to go to the facility next door, you had to get all suited up and like,
dude, it's
get
so
over to
true.
the next facility. And like while I was up there, I decided to take one night and like experience what it's like to stay in one of the hotels, which is like a barracks basically. And it's like going into a spaceship, and they have everything you need, the gym and the restaurant or the cafeteria and all the rooms, and like everybody's in there in the spaceship type thing.
Yeah.
It's
weird. I mean, and it's all on stilts too.
Yes.
You know, because you can't, if you have the structure on the ground, it thaws the permafrost and then it's unstable.
Yep.
So everything is on stilts, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know, it's like ground is lava. So you're walking up a ramp to get into the building. And then you're right. Everything is all connected inside these massive complexes. Yeah. The gym. And that's really all there is to do up there.
Yeah.
You know, you get off work, you can go back and you can eat. You can go to the gym, go to bed. Yeah. And you go to bed in the same room that your shift alternate just left. So like he slept in the room, he had his 12 hours off, he was in there, and then you swap and then you have the other bed and then you're in there for 12 hours. So you never have the opportunity to just go like, oh, this is just my spot and I can just leave it messy or whatever. You know, it's, you always have to get it ready and leave for your other guy to take over.
Yeah. So when I was up there, I met this, for lack of a better term, this old timer had been working up there for, I can't remember what he said, 30 plus years, maybe 40 years.
Wow.
Super nice guy. He ran one of the man camps up there. And talking with him, and all the years that he's been up there, he's never made the drive.
Oh, really?
He's
always flown.
Always flown. And so in talking with him, that's the case with most people. Yep. They all fly in. And I don't think you really get a sense of how remote that is up there until you make the drive.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I can appreciate both of doing the Dempster Highway as well as the Dalton Highway. And that I found that same experience, like a lot of people that were in Inuvik over on the Dempster Highway, most of them that work up there all flew there. And you just don't grasp how remote you are until you make that.
Yeah.
That
That's
drive
very
up
true.
there through it.
That's very true.
That was one thing I can appreciate about it.
You fly, like, to go to work, right? It's an all-day deal. You fly from Montrose to whatever hub and then up there to Anchorage.
Yeah.
And then you catch another flight early the next morning to get to the slope.
Yeah.
And so you're tired. It's dark, right? It's wintertime. You can't see shit. So you just get on the plane and then you just try to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And you're on the plane for however long that flight is. You land and then you're in prison for 3 weeks, basically. And what really kind of puts it into perspective, I had gone up there with my girlfriend several years, or actually a couple of years before working up there. And her sister and brother-in-law have a fly-in lodge east of Talkeetna.
Okay.
So we spent some time up there at the lodge. We rented a motorcycle and we just toured around for like a week on a GS 1250.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And yeah, I went from, Anchorage up to Talkeetna and then over to, McCarthy.
Okay.
And down to Valdez and just kind of did a, nice tour through the southern part there.
Yeah.
Barely scratched the surface, right? I think we went to Homer as well.
Okay. Yeah.
You barely scratch the surface, but you're spending like days on the bike, and then when you look at the map and you realize like, okay, from Anchorage all the way to Valdez, man, it's felt like so far, and that's nothing compared to like Anchorage to the North Slope, and so then you realize, okay, this is a freaking huge state, and that place is way remote.
Well, and that's a funny thing too. you know, Texas always prides itself on the, you know, we're the biggest state in the lower 48 and stuff. But when you start like comparing it to the size of Alaska, like what is it like? Alaska's like, I don't know, some crazy stat bigger than Texas.
It's massive.
Yeah, it is huge.
We could ask Siri, but
yeah. She's sleeping right now. It's late.
She's worthless.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So Alaska was like a big push. What, last year? Is that when you went last time?
Yeah. So I've done 2 trips to the Arctic. The first one was in 2022. 22. Yes, correct. 22. And that just kind of happened on a whim. Okay. Like I was doing winter camping content up in Washington and winter was just not hitting. And I was like, I'm tired of just doing winter content in Washington. Like, I think I need to go to Alaska.
Let's go find
or
some
something.
winter.
Yeah, why not just go to the Arctic? It's got to be crazy in the wintertime, right? Like,
okay.
And that's always been how I've kind of decided how to like raise the bar, you know, in the van sector of YouTube. Of like, okay, what's something that nobody else is doing, and how can I do something better or more interesting? And you know, there's a ton of content of people driving up those highways in the summertime. But nobody's doing it in the wintertime. So that's within a week, I put together a trip and just took off and did it and documented it. And that time I went to Tuktoyaktuk, which is in Canada the whole entire time. You drive all the way to Northwest Territory. And it's the farthest north you can drive in all of Canada. It's the only place in North America that you can drive to the Arctic Ocean as a civilian.
Right.
In the wintertime anyways. And I wanted that iconic shot of my van parked next to the Arctic Ocean sign with nothing but ice fields out ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so I set out to do that, and it was freaking amazing. But it's still not the farthest north that you can drive in all of North America. That's over in Prudhoe Bay, Dead Horse. And I wasn't able to make that trip all in the same trip, so I decided to do that the next year, again in the wintertime. 2023, and drove the Dalton Highway up over the Brooks Range, out across the tundra, which I thought was never going to end.
Oh yeah,
across the tundra. And it's hard to decide. I felt more prepared for the second trip, but you know, probably being less prepared for the first trip maybe made for better content,
more exciting. Yeah. Is it hard to get like inspired to come up with something new to do? Now you've been doing YouTube for 14 years, right? Or
basically started the channel in 2011 kind of as a side hobby, but full time. I mean,
now that you're doing full time, is it hard to go, oh man, what's the next Alaska trip? Like what's the next thing to do? I mean, do you get a lot of pressure from your viewers to like, hey, come up with something cool?
Yeah, you know, and it's probably all pressure from myself.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah. Because, you know, every video that I do, I want it to be better than the last, which is good. You know, that's how you like develop your skills and you push yourself, you know, whether it's like coming up with better imagery on the camera, coming up with better adventures. That's always self-inflicted on me. And I feel like that's what always just keeps us pushing forward, you know, and whatever we're doing, whether it's, you know, running a shop and running a business or, you know, filming cool shit. So, I mean, there's definitely, I've kind of hit a wall where I feel like I've been creating just the same video. And I don't want to do that. That doesn't inspire me just to keep making the same camping and cooking video. And I still love it. I still love going out and doing the van life stuff. Right. It's just hard to get inspired to pick up a camera and do it. So that's kind of where I'm at with the motorcycle. It's kind of injected a new spark of interest and inspiration of still doing the same stuff, but let's try it a little different. It's a new challenge. You know, I'm going from having everything set up and perfectly comfortable in a van, and now I'm going to have to figure out how to do it on a motorcycle. Right. Which I know is possible, but I also want to make it interesting on film. So that introduces the element of cameras. And right now I'm just like figuring out how to pack my gear, my gear to live, you know, to sleep and be comfortable on a bike, much less now documenting it, you know, keeping cameras charged, You know, in my van, I've got a big space dedicated to camera gear where it's under my counter space and everything is always charged. It's always there ready to go. And I've got a lot of camera gear. Now, how do I fit that on a bike? And you know?
You spent like all day Saturday just setting up gear stuff. You know, like setting up little bags and things to hold your camera and things on your vest. And I think I rebuilt my whole bike and you were just like setting up gear bags. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then today you had it all packed or mostly packed.
Yeah.
It was just impressive how much you fit onto that motorcycle in those bags. It's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's pretty cool what companies out there are doing these days and making it possible for stuff like this. And, you know, there's adventure motorcycles that are set up perfectly for that. They've got the big hard panniers and the trunks and all that stuff. And you could easily toss a lot of gear in there that you could go be comfortable in. I wanted to do it on a dirt bike that's, to me, more fun to ride.
Yeah.
You know, we love dirt bikes and, you know, I wanted a dirt bike. My 501 is pretty damn capable. It's not as capable as like a full on, you know, motocross bike out there on those trails, but it's pretty surprising.
I mean, did great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised.
And I feel like all the stuff we rode, that's about as technical as I like to ride, or as far as technical, I mean, just like rocky, rough, Rudy type stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy riding stuff that's more gnarly than that because I like going fast.
Yeah.
And you're able to do it on the 501 just fine. So I feel like that's a perfect, that's plenty small enough.
Yeah. And the fact that you can get out and, you know, we were ripping down some of those roads, you and I together on Sunday, and I couldn't see my, my speedometer, but I kept thinking like, okay, this is like top gear. Then I'd grab another gear.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd grab another gear, and it's like 6 gears, like an overdrive. So, you know, it'll do probably 90. I've seen 80 out on a beach and it wasn't topped out. Not that you'd want to be cruising at that speed, but that was on a beach. So, you know, you could easily probably do 90.
Yeah. I mean, you hit 6th gear and you were way ahead of me on the 450.
Yeah.
It was just, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother level.
Yeah. So it's got some capability on road, but I think for the stuff I want to go do, like I'm looking forward to going up to these mountain passes and hitting some of those dirt roads and just go exploring. Maybe go from one town to the next, spend the night, go to the next, spend the night.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of do that type of exploring. So
what are you gonna wear? Like, do you have like a climb riding jacket and pants and stuff, or do you have your kit sorted out for that? Yeah,
kind of. So a little bit of research that I've been doing online. Like I see a lot of guys just wearing straight up moto stuff for the basic stuff. Right now, the weather's fairly decent. Of course, now we've been getting these monsoons coming in, and after our experience out on the plateau, you know, the other day, so I started looking at the Moscow, because the bags and stuff that I got, it's the Moscow Moto stuff, and they actually have some decent apparel. And through some advice through another friend, he advised me on some like very packable rain gear. So I've got some of that coming. That should be here in the next day or two. That's kind of, I'm finally starting to have collected all my gear. So I've got some rain gear that I'm going to bring with that should be able to pile on if I hit that one monsoon storm. If or when. But other than that, I'm planning on just wearing moto gear. I'm going to bring some layers. Also with that Moscow order, I've got some like moto specific long johns, like under base layer type stuff. Which would be cool. I don't know. It's all an experiment. I got to go out and like start riding and figure out what more that I need.
Oh man.
You know, I started watching this guy. He doesn't have like a ton of content online, but on Instagram, he goes by Round the World Paul. And I don't know if he's from like South Africa or maybe Australia. He's got an accent. And he's been on the road for 9 years on a KTM 500. And with like the Moscow setup that I've got, and he's kind of done a couple of videos where he's, you know, reinvented his gear setup. Super minimal. So he's been kind of my inspiration of like, okay, he did it with that. I can do it with this.
9 years on the bike.
9 years. Yeah.
He's the same bike.
I don't know if he's had a couple different on 500s. I don't know if it's the same one or if he's had a couple 500s.
Wow.
But he said he's probably been in 45 or 50 countries with his KTM. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
super cool.
awesome.
Yeah, he's a older gentleman, and I'm like, okay, that's rad. Like, I'm gonna use that. Not necessarily that I'm gonna go ride around the world, but if people are doing stuff like that, it's like, all right, cool.
You remember the long way down and all those
Yeah.
shows. I mean, I think those inspired anybody who likes motorcycles
Yep.
and travel.
Yep, 100%.
But
Well, and the whole like YouTube format. If you think of how they
yeah,
film it,
actually, that's a good point, because that was still like pretty early days for YouTube, wasn't it?
there was I think they did that in 2004, 2005.
Okay.
YouTube started in 2005.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because
nobody
I
was-
was active duty at the time, and I remember YouTube. I mean, you could watch some kind of messed up stuff on YouTube at the time, which is, of course, what all the Navy guys are doing. to look at this guy get blown up, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that was 2005 for sure, when we
Yeah.
really kind of got it at the aircrew shop, and we're using it, and then they shut it all down for security.
Oh, yeah.
like made it really restricted. But
Yeah. Yeah, in the early days of YouTube, there was definitely no storytelling per se. It was for funny, stupid cat videos and people blowing themselves up.
yeah, definitely.
It-
Yeah, now it's like the short film thing is that's huge.
Yeah.
Obviously people can make a living
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool. The way I always looked at it is that YouTube has given so many people an opportunity to have a platform to start anything with, filmmaking based. I always kind of attributed to like the time they were alive and like being able to do this stuff. Let's go back even just 10 years ago. If you and I came up with like the best idea in the world for either a film or a TV show,
Right.
and if we wanted to make that TV show reality, we're going to have to come up with this amazing concept, figure out how to pitch it. Not only that, now we've got to go beat down the doors of some network executives and figure
Yeah.
out how to get in front of them and pitch this whole thing. And then maybe most likely get shut down
Yeah.
and never get it off the ground. Whereas like today, we pick up our phone, you and I just start filming it right now. We put it on YouTube.
Yep.
And if it's good, like we can
Do you
probably
think
be more
do you
successful.
think this video is going to get as many hits as the Hawk Tui girl?
Oh, dude, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that's the thing with it's so viral these days.
Yeah.
If you have something that hits just right, I mean, it can millions and millions of people can see that
yep,
like that fast.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
yep. And it's not, it's how good your story is. A lot of people are always asking me like, "Hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. What camera gear should I use?" And that same old adage of the best camera you can get is the one that you've got.
Yep.
And like my top grossing video on my YouTube channel is filmed all with an iPhone 10. I was in between different cameras. I've always used like DSLRs or mirrorless
Yep.
cameras, and I was in between cameras, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to film this one with a iPhone X, and I went out and did it, and that one ended up, it's like almost 20 million views.
What?
Yeah. And that was with an iPhone X.
Which one is this?
The Winter Storm in a van.
Okay.
I think you were looking at it the
Yeah, I
other
was
day.
looking at
but
the cover
that,
the other day. Yeah.
That was filmed all with an iPhone X.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, it's not necessarily about how good the gear is that you got, but how good you can tell the story type thing.
Yeah.
You got to have content that engages people for a long period of time. And, all these Instagram reels, we've been talking about it and like making little reels
dude,
and
I'm
like
so over it.
the challenge
Yeah.
of it, And I found, over the years, it's been interesting where people say like, oh, your YouTube videos need to be like 10 minutes or less. And it seems like that time keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, I think the attention span of the average human is just getting really small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even a reel, I don't think most people watch a reel till its completion these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Scrolling.
Especially on those formats too. And that's the hard
Yeah.
part about like TikTok or Instagram. And that's why I really embrace YouTube in the longer format. And when I say longer format, I'm talking like 20 minutes or longer, even
Yep.
upwards of an hour. And, everybody's like, oh, you should do reels, and then, oh, you should do shorts. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around the concept of how to tell a story in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And even going back to the time where people were like, oh, your YouTube videos need to be less than 10 minutes, I kind of did the opposite and said, no, I'm going to make them like 20 minutes longer, 25. Holy crap, I just did one that was 30 minutes. Oh my God, I'm breaking the rules.
Right.
And dude, that's when my channel started taking off.
Really?
And really exploding. And so I really feel like it's, you know, how well you can engage your audience. If you can create content that keeps people engaged.
Well, we were kind of talking about that with podcasts too, right? Like I don't like to listen to a 30-minute podcast just on Spotify or something, because you just get started and it feels like a Fox News broadcast or like a canned news production, because everything has to be so condensed.
Yeah.
You got to hit your talking points and then we got to go.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. So I love the long form podcasts, like the Joe Rogan's and Lex Friedman type podcasts, where you get to sit down and listen to two people talk without any time constraints, with no rules, and they just get to talk.
Yeah.
And then you get to feel like you really are getting to know these people.
Yep.
And if they have an interesting story or interesting subject matter, you're there for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the same is true with videos on YouTube. Like if I watch YouTube to relax at night, like I don't watch TV, I'll watch YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody has an interesting story, it might not be something I'm crazy passionate about, but I'll sit there and watch it if it's told well.
Yeah.
And if the cinematography is good and all that, I'll sit there and watch the whole damn thing.
Now, I don't think you can do, you know, a 50-minute long unboxing video. So it depends on the subject.
Yeah.
You can't do a 50-minute long gear review, but if you get into like some of these people that are doing documentary style videos in that amount of time, and if it's good and interesting, it'll hold my attention for that long.
Dude, even stuff like history type videos, or how it's made, or, you know, that kind of stuff is super fascinating. Maybe it's just the edibles talking. I don't know. You know, you're in bed and you're like, I just watched a CNC machining video for 30 minutes. It was amazing. But history on YouTube, if it's told well, like that's incredible. I love watching that stuff.
Yeah, I love the educational aspect about it, and the fact that, you know, gone are the days where you have to like turn it to a specific channel and you're pretty much just stuck watching whatever's on there.
Right.
You know, with YouTube being the second largest search engine next to Google, which Google owns YouTube, like you can search for anything you want on YouTube and chances are you're going to find it. So it's cool. You can really drill into what your interests are, and it can be so educational. You can learn so much about everything, anything that you want. You know, it goes to like fixing a car, how to do your brakes, how to build your brakes, like whatever you're working on, you can. Yeah,
like some weird obscure stuff. I mean, it's crazy what you find on there. How to reset the oil life on some weird car, right? That you never ever work on, but your buddy has one and you need to do oil change. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, guarantee it. Yeah.
Remember those days when it was like all you had was like 20 cable channels, half of them were news, and like you're stuck watching whatever's on.
Yeah, you go to a hotel for the night and you're just watching TV and it's
terrible.
Just crap. Yeah, it's
terrible.
Yeah, who pays for cable anymore? Does anybody pay for cable?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know why they would.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't know. I if I go over to somebody's house and like the TV's on in the background, like, and a commercial comes on, I'm just like, it's so crazy to me. Like just the whole format.
Yeah.
You know, that's always been one of the biggest challenges for creating content on YouTube is, you know, we're getting paid through the ads that play on the videos. And, you know, YouTube does that basically on like a profit sharing type program. Like they are selling those advertisements to these brands, just like television networks sell airspace for brands to advertise for those commercials. So we're the content creators that are bringing people to the platform, so they share a portion of that profit with us on those ads that they sell, and that's how we get paid. And you know, I don't put the ads in there. YouTube,
they pick it all.
Right. And you get so many people who are like, I hate these ads. I'm not watching this channel anymore because these ads like.
Also, by the way, whoever's saying that, pay the fucking $13.
Yeah.
What? I mean,
you
don't have to watch them.
Yep. So what's funny, what I always attribute it to is like, most likely these people are the same people that are paying $150 a month to have cable.
Yeah, probably.
And they're paying to watch television advertisements.
Yeah.
Like
crammed down their throat.
Yep. And I've worked my ass off to create this content that these people are watching for free. from the comforts of their living room, and they're
Yeah.
watching. They've got to watch some ads if they haven't paid the.
If they haven't paid dude, I bought YouTube Red when it was YouTube Red. I don't even know
yeah.
if it's called YouTube Red anymore.
Yeah, I think it's premium, but yeah.
Whatever it is now.
Yeah.
It was like $13 a month. And I was like, $13 a month. But I was watching a lot of YouTube because I was getting big into photography at the time.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I was like watching tons of Peter McKinnon tutorials and like
Yeah.
how to do stuff in Photoshop. And so I was like, dude, I'm wasting so much time watching
Yeah.
ads. So I just signed up for it and dude, never looked back.
Yeah.
And now I make fun of everybody that has ads played.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, just look it up on YouTube. They'll show you how to do it. And if my guy's like looking it up and there's an ad, I'm like, am I fucking paying you to watch an ad right now? Are you serious? This is ridiculous.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I've had conversation with people in the comment threads where they're like, I can't believe I got to sit there and watch these ads. And that's my response all the time. Is like, oh, bro, you don't have YouTube Premium? Like,
Yeah.
you're missing out, dude. Like, you need YouTube Premium, because I still get paid off of YouTube Premium. Like, I can see in my analytics like how much
Sure.
money I'm getting from people that are premium subscribers. And this person's like, what? Now you expect me to pay a premium to like watch your videos? And I'm like, bro, you expect me to like work my ass off just so you
Also,
don't for free?
how
Like,
do
so
you
you don't
even-
have to watch my
Like, I don't
ads?
even know how you have the bandwidth to reply to these people. So, dude, I can barely handle doing social media at all.
Yeah.
But YouTube, it's the easiest, I think, to hide behind the keyboard.
Yeah.
Because you don't nobody can go look at your profile and see anything about you, right?
Yeah.
You're so anonymous.
Yeah.
So I find that the trolls on YouTube are gnarly.
Yeah.
And will say all kinds of crazy shit. And
Yeah.
at first it used to bother me, of course, even if you're like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
So now if I see it, I just reply back, like I kind of just take it right to the same level and throw it
Yeah.
right back. And it's sort of entertaining for a second, and then I just ignore them.
Yeah. It's
But
easy
it's
to get caught up.
crazy how gnarly the trolls can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in all that negativity, but one thing that I am fortunate enough to have is this enormous, like, very loyal following
Yeah.
of people that just truly enjoy the content, and they're so positive, and I shouldn't even think about,
Yep.
any negative comment that goes through, because honestly, for every negative comment that comes through, there's at least 1,000 good
Yep.
comments,
Yep.
and I'm definitely thankful for that. And if it wasn't for all the positive feedback, I would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's all the very positive, inspirational comments that come through that really inspire me to keep going. It's like, ooh, this is like actually making a difference in people's lives.
Right.
And that keeps me going, of like, there's a reason that I'm working my ass off
Yep.
to create this content.
Yep.
Because it makes a difference in people's lives. The amount of emails that I've got, or DMs, or just comments that go on forever of how it saved their lives, how it changed their lives, how they were on the brink of going this direction and they found my content, or maybe
Right.
during COVID they were in the hospital, or some different illness or injury where they were in bed for months and they found my content and it helped pull them through. There's been so many comments and stuff like that that's like, whoa, dude, like, I never set out to
Yeah.
accomplish that. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool having that kind of impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just show people dumb vans.
Van porn.
It's just van porn.
Hey, van. People need their van porn
Dude,
too.
I don't know. I guess.
Stupid, crazy, foolish.
Dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, foolish.
That's right, yeah.
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 No, speaking of like the positive versus negative comments, that when I rolled the van, that video was a prime example of like the overwhelming support from all of our loyal followers. Oh my God, I hope you guys are okay. I hope everyone was all right. Like, the van's fine, but I hope you guys are okay. Like,
Yeah.
thousands of comments. And then the few, troll comments, which is where that slogan came from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
I've
love it.
I've embraced it. Now it's been long enough that a lot of new customers have no idea what that means.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got
And
like
they probably love it still,
sweatshirt,
nonetheless.
yeah,
Yeah.
sweatshirts and shirts and merch and stuff that say that on it, and they're like, "Oh, dangerous, dude. That's weird. What's that about?" And then you got to tell them the whole story. That's kind of funny.
I mean, the thing is it really does fit in with like everything you
Yeah.
do. Like,
Yeah, it was perfect.
yeah.
The guy that said that like really did give me a big like boost.
Yeah.
Because that was a perfect slogan, and we just kind of embraced that.
Yeah.
Since then, it's been good.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. I always use stuff like that as fuel.
Yeah.
To like build on, and it might be a comment about a particular video or something that I did in a video of like, the 20 million view video. Like before that, the winter before that, I had done a video in my van up at the ski area, camping in the snow. There was a snow blizzard going on outside, and I was hunkered down in my van, and I was like making dinner and like showed all that. And I'd show out the window and like, yeah, look, it's snowing. And I don't know, that might've been, I can't remember what I titled it, but it did fairly well. But there was one comment in there, and somebody was like, well, that's cool. You're not really like camping in a snowstorm up there. Like you're in a van and you're cooking inside. And so I use that as fuel of like, okay, for the next video, when it's an even bigger storm, I'm going to like set up a campfire outside. I'm going to cook something over a campfire while it's freaking snowing down outside.
Right.
And lo and behold, I go out and I do that based on that comment of like, kind of give them the FU.
Yep.
And that video goes and gets like 20 million views. And so in that one, I cooked a pizza in a skillet over a campfire in like this crazy snowstorm. I think it snowed like 3 feet that night. And somebody in the comments was like, well, yeah, okay, cool. So you're cooking,
but you didn't start the fire by rubbing sticks together, so it doesn't count.
No, I didn't make the pizza dough from scratch.
Jesus, are you kidding me?
Yeah, so I cooked a pizza in a skillet, but I used like a baboli or something like that. And somebody said, well, come on, you didn't like make your pizza dough from scratch. So I used that. In the next video, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make bread from scratch, like a loaf of bread in a Dutch oven over a campfire.
I'm about to start commenting some crazy shit on your channel, dude.
And
but I bet you won't roll that van.
Yeah, right. And that's why I've always just used that as like, and that video went on to make like 5 million views, and I like made a loaf of bread from scratch in a snowstorm, like with the yeast and the sugar and the, whatever the hell it takes.
You had to go to the store and get all this stuff. I'm assuming that your van's not like stocked with the full bakery right now, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, I went and like bought the ingredients that I needed.
Because I think I have like 3 things in my van to eat. That's like it.
Yeah.
I don't have seasonings. I don't have any of that shit.
But it works. I don't know. It's like somebody said, oh, okay, cool. You went to the Arctic in the wintertime, like, but you did it in a Sprinter van, like pussy.
Yeah, I'll walk next year. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
They're in their mom's basement, dude.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's always the shit that, like, fuels the fire for the next one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Nice. Dude, this is the first podcast, I think, where I've not been consuming alcohol.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because usually it's Talon. I think Talon's been on, like, 3 or 4 times.
Oh, nice.
And we're always drinking something.
Oh,
whiskey or long drinks, I think was the last show.
Ooh,
yeah, it's like a gin. It's like a gin drink. It's really good. Seltzer.
Yeah.
This is good, though.
Yeah.
Be extra productive tomorrow.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's been like my favorite thing. It's like, just don't feel the like hangovers.
Yeah.
It's hard enough, like, as we start getting older, like.
Whoa, bro.
Whoa.
I'm still mid-30s. Yeah. Till November, 30s? I'm mid-30s, bro.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. And then you're
40,
early 40s.
Yeah. So you just keep the old shit to yourself. But no, it's true. Yeah, it's harder to come back from a long night.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hard to like, keep everything feeling good as it is, and then add alcohol on top of that, and it's like, oof, that makes it even harder. So.
Do you smoke weed?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Not on like a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's always been a thing where it like, I grew up around it.
Yeah.
I grew up around it. Like, my parents smoked it all the time, and I was like that kid that, I didn't smoke it until I was like 30, and it was weird because you'd think if you were like around it all the time, they always say, oh, you're going to bad influence.
You're just going to be a pothead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think I was like 30 the first time I tried it. And then I never had anything against it. It was just like,
not your thing.
Yeah, I never really did it. And it always just like made me feel weird and stuff. But my favorite time to do it is like around a campfire.
Yeah.
Like right before bed.
Yep.
Or edibles. Edibles are fun.
I like
You know?
edibles because it's pretty consistent.
Yep.
You know, especially if you know the kind you're going to take, you know what you're getting into.
Yep.
Whereas smoking weed, if your buddy's like, oh, here, hit this, you don't really know what that is going to be like, right?
Yeah.
It's like doing mushrooms.
They're like, oh no, this one's light. Like I'm a super lightweight on it too. So
Really?
a little bit goes a long ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you don't do it much.
And if I try to do it like in a social environment, like I get like super paranoid and like,
Oh, really?
you know, like, oh shit, like everybody knows I'm high or whatever. So my favorite time to do is when I'm just like chilling around a campfire. And if I'm with other people, that's like, we're already on that way out. And if I just like pass out, then we're good. So
yeah, it's, there's no way I could record a podcast high and it'd be any good.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
yeah, we should try it sometime.
Dude, we should.
You want to?
Yeah, we should. When Talon's here later this month, we should do a
Let's do it.
three-way podcast where I'll just get high.
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculous. I'd lose so many followers. We'll put that on your channel.
Yeah, we should try just to see, like, even if we just watch it back ourselves when we're sober. And
Dude,
see,
that would be
like,
actually a really interesting social experiment.
Yeah.
Because, maybe we just think we sound retarded and actually we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would be all paranoid that I would, like, probably if I was high doing it, I probably wouldn't say much because I wouldn't want to say something stupid.
When I'm high, I'm extra thoughtful about what I'm saying. Like, oh man, I can't say that because she's gonna think this, and then she might think this, and you do this like big mind game.
Yeah.
About what you're gonna say.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
That'd be interesting. We should do that.
I think one of the things I've always been interested in is like exploring, everybody always says, oh yeah, when you smoke weed, you get so much more creative.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because anytime I smoke weed, I feel like when I'm sober, I feel like my mind is like here, wide. I'm conscious of everything.
Yep.
When I smoke weed, I feel like everything goes like this. And I feel so closed off from the world, where everybody always talks about like, oh no, dude, it just expands your mind. Like,
yeah,
I'm like the opposite.
I don't know about that. If I smoke weed or have an edible before bed, I won't be working, right? Like I'm not going to continue to try to write emails because I know, like I will sit there and try to type, and it will take 10 times as long to put something together. When I'm sober and sharp, it's easy, right? So I don't work when I'm high.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like to unwind and relax and go to bed or whatever, and just kind of turn the mind off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's saying that about the creative stuff. I don't get it either because I'll try to edit photos.
Oh yeah.
And we're not talking like crazy hard edits either. I'm not like doing crazy stuff in Photoshop. I'm just like just doing some post processing.
Yeah.
And it will take freaking ever. And I'm like, oh yeah. And you're just kind of fumbling through it. And I'm like, dude, this is not efficient for anything.
Well,
the only thing it's good for is laying in bed and watching YouTube and going to sleep.
That's where I'm at, dude.
That is it.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Or like good sex. Like I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, like some of the best editors that I've known, like always come out like, I've worked with these people in filming, and then I see the edit, the final edit come together like a month or two later, and I'm always like mind blown of like, holy shit, that's so good. I'm like, how do you do that, dude? And he's like, I get stoned out of my mind, dude. And I just like, everything makes sense to me. And I'm like, okay, like maybe I need to get stoned.
Maybe we got to get super stoned.
I don't know, dude. I've tried it. I've tried it like set, like on my standards, like pretty stoned.
Yeah.
And where I've sat down on like in front of the screen and I try to edit. My problem is like, I go through this loop and I like forget where I'm at. Like sometimes physically, like, wait, where am I at? But especially when I'm trying to put together a storyline on an edit, I'm like editing. I'm like, wait. So where am I? What am I doing? It just is totally counterintuitive. Yeah. One night I was like, all right, dude, I'm just going to do this, and like hit it. And finally I was just like, I hit a wall, and I just like, I got to go to bed. It didn't work.
It didn't work
at all. No.
Yeah. No.
Unless there's like a threshold where you just push through to the other side. I don't know.
I don't know what's on the other side. I don't think it's productive though. Not for me.
Yeah.
All I want to do is just eat everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't really focus on like
Yeah.
accomplishing something.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But maybe that's good for me. I think it is actually good for me because all I want to do all day when I'm sober is just get shit done.
Yeah.
It's just like, I have to get shit done. I have to accomplish stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it allows me to turn that off. Otherwise, I found that since I started the business, I would just go to bed and then just think about all the shit I didn't get done and what I had to do the next day and just kind of go in this endless loop that wasn't very healthy.
Yep.
So this kind of lets me unplug. I didn't actually smoke weed or do any drugs like that until 2020.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, dad was a cop as a kid. So it's pretty strict upbringing. Never was really rebellious doing all the drugs and stuff. I mean, I drank beer, but that was it.
Yeah.
And then I was always drug tested. It's like military, out of the military. I was always pretty straight and narrow that way. So
Yeah.
I was like, how old was I? 35.
Okay.
And had some edibles like in Rico, Colorado, like 9,000 feet. So that hit pretty hard. It's like, I just remember taking a shower. Just like, what the fuck is happening right now? I cannot function.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. My dad would make his own edibles, and dude, I tell you what, the most stoned that I've ever been has been off of his edibles. And he would just like mix it up. There was no measuring. It was like, oh yeah, a little this,
Just
a little
wing
that,
it.
maybe a little that, a little bit of that, a little more of this. And he'd make these brownies. And you know, you get a brownie like that, you're like, when you're used to growing up eating brownies, like you want a brownie. Sometimes you want 2 brownies, maybe 3 brownies. They're good. Dude, like literally, like you're talking like maybe something the size of that. The most stoned I've ever been. We were hanging out one night. It was like Thanksgiving, and my dad was like, "Hey, anybody want brownies?" So my brother and I were like, "Yeah, sure." Like, but I'm like going a little like little
take it
nebulous.
easy.
Yeah, and that was like, I don't know, hour before dinner. And you know, edibles take a while to kick in, and so we're sitting around eating dinner as a family, and you know, it's always that one moment where it just like kicks, and you like feel it. You're like, "Whoa, what was that?" Oh yeah, the edibles. Yeah. My brother starts like laughing, and it just like, dude, it just
everybody
kicks off.
starts laughing,
and then it hits, and it got so, but like dinner was finished, everybody like starts like cleaning off the table, and I'm like, I gotta move, I gotta do something, like just to keep myself like on track of where I'm at, what I'm doing. So I get up and I start like sweeping the floor, and I'm in the middle of my parents' house, which I grew up in, and I'm like, start forgetting where I'm at. I'm like, wait, am I in the living room? I gotta go to the bathroom. Which way is the bathroom? Which way is the bathroom? Like, wait, is it that way? Is it that way? Like, crazy, dude. So I don't know what my dad was putting in those brownies, but
that's good stuff. You
They're
should
pretty
have him
strong.
send some down.
I know, right?
We'll eat that on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, that was before the days of like, now edibles are, you know, prepackaged, and now you know it's like 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams or
Yeah, you pretty much know what you're getting into these days.
Yeah, which is kind of nice
with all that stuff.
Yeah, pretty wild. But yeah, it's never done anything for me as far as getting work done. That doesn't work.
I feel like I can get it. Like if I'm in the shop, just cleaning up the shop or something, I can definitely get work done having a couple beers and being a little buzzed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, getting the shop's clean.
Yeah.
You're relaxed and having a good time. Tools are perfect, right? Like you can do some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to operate power tools, but I can detail the car and you know, clean up the shop.
Yeah.
But if I'm high, dude, the point of diminishing returns hits real quick.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you're like, I'm just going to go upstairs and go to bed.
Yeah.
Because I'm not productive.
See, now if I was sitting down on an edit session, now I'll get into these edit sessions where I'll go for like 15, 17 hours straight, like pulling
on one video.
On one video, yeah.
What?
Like when I was working for Racer X and doing like the Racer X films, we'd go to a national and we'd film on Saturday, travel home on Sunday. Then they want to put the content out like by Tuesday at the latest. You got 2 videos to edit.
Damn.
And so after, you know, you work your ass off all day Saturday you're freaking like dragging your ass off the track. Sunday, you travel across the country. So you start Monday morning, you're already exhausted. You got to get this edit done. And I'd spend, I think probably my record was like 17 hours on one video.
Oh my God.
To do like a 4 or 5 minute edit of like the 450 race or whatever.
Yep.
And like if I get down on those sessions, like sip on some whiskey,
sure,
then I can get shit done.
Really?
Then I feel creative of like, okay, cool, I'm having fun. You know, you get into the groove and like, so it's interesting. I guess we all have our drug of choice or whatever, you know, and
sure,
you know, for me, it's the whiskey.
What's
I
that guy? Hunter S. Thompson, right?
Oh yeah.
That dude has some crazy story. We actually rode motorcycles by his old place in Aspen.
Oh yeah,
2 summers ago
on that little side road across the river,
by Woody Creek.
Yeah.
And you start reading about that dude. That dude was crazy. He had some whole freaking regiment of stuff that he was doing, like every kind of drug you can imagine, and that was wild.
Fear and Loathing, right?
Yeah,
wild. Yeah, that is some wild stuff there. Yeah, you can really like go some places, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for me to get like the most creative, I've got to be relaxed and I've got to be excited about doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
When it comes to photography and stuff. And I'll be honest, it's really hard for me to get super pumped about it because I don't get to go out and create nearly as much as I used to. So I used to go ride motorcycles, adventure bikes, street bikes, you name it. And I'd have days out on the bikes, and you're like, oh man, I could set up this really cool shot, and you have time, right? You have time to plan for it and time to think about it and set it up and then edit it. And it's very satisfying when you create that thing and you've got the long exposure starlight shot with the bike and like everything comes together. Like, dude, that was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I don't have that in luxury anymore. It's just go.
Yeah.
And then, we got to get content for the freaking channel. We got to get content for the social media machine.
Yep.
I got to go smash the shutter and take pictures of vans.
Yeah.
And then how do I make this different than everything else that's out there? How do I make this unique? You know, how to make it on brand?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get inspired sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
There'll be times where I'm like, oh dude, that's a really cool idea. I want to do that with vans. And then you're like, how do I ever implement this? How do I take a day and go do this stuff and create this shot? But you need to.
That's why I'm really thankful to be, you know, working in the space where I am, because I have the freedom to go out and create when I am inspired.
Yep.
And when I'm not inspired, I've just learned to like, okay, let it go. Like it'll come back.
Yep.
You know, used to be really hard on myself of like, when I wasn't inspired, like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I first picked up a camera in like 98 and started filming moto. And so really motorcycles was the whole reason I ever picked up cameras in the first place.
Yep.
And I did video. Like that's all I was interested in. Video. And it was hard because, you know, you go after watching Crusty Demons of Dirt and Steel Roots and all that, like that was all the inspiration to like pick up a camera and like, I want to go film us buddies out riding.
Yep.
So we go all ride all weekend long, and I'd have the camera out and I put together like a 2-minute edit that took me like 4 days to edit.
Yep.
And, you know, people were like, cool video, bro. Like, but it was so much work of all the filming and all the editing just to put something together. They're like, people are like, sweet. And
think about Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think we take some pretty nice photos.
Yeah.
And you've got to get the freaking vehicles up there. And then you got to, you know, stage the shot and get the shot and then edit it. And sure, we're just talking stills. It's not all that much time in the grand scheme of things, but still, there's a lot of work that goes into a photo that people just scroll right on by.
Yep.
And, oh, cool.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
So after a while, you kind of lose that. You know, when I'm doing it for me, when it's an edit for me, I like editing shots of the old cars in the shop or like kind of some lifestyle shots that really paint a picture of things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And create a certain emotion when you look at it. I always like to ask people, how's this photo make you feel?
Yeah.
So I always like that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to evoke an emotion. That's fun to me. And I can only really do that when I'm relaxed and I'm not thinking about the business, or I'm not thinking about, I have to create something for the business. So it's usually after a day away from the shop.
Yeah.
When I've had sleep, right? And I can just kind of relax, and then I
Yeah.
get into that creative mode, and I'm like, oh man, I should go take some shots right now. This would be
Yeah.
fun. It just rained. Let me go get some shots in the rain. Like
Yeah.
something cool like that.
Yeah. Well, after years of doing the video stuff, I just got burned out. Like I produced a DVD, a moto DVD that like got distribution. This was in like 2003.
What?
Yeah. This is,
Have I watched it?
no,
Oh,
no, it's terrible.
Okay. Oh.
It's terrible. It was like for sale on Amazon and all that stuff. It was just one of those things that like came together because you had to. It was just good practice. Like you look back on it and it's like, it's fucking terrible. But after that, like everything switched over to HD. That was back in standard definition days.
okay.
And everything switched over to HD. I was burnt out. I couldn't afford to like switch all my gear over, so I gave it up. I was like, I'm done with video. That was like 2004, 2005. And I just was over it. And then I got into still photography in 2008. And that's where everything changed. Kind of like what you were saying earlier of like, you go out and you set up a shot, you know, landscape photography. I really discovered that. And I appreciate what landscape photography did for me because it slowed me down enough. It taught me the appreciation for like going out in the woods into Mother Nature and like capturing it with a camera. Like I found it so much more relaxing than video. Like you go out, it's, you know, cool weather, sunset's happening, you go out into the woods, set your tripod down, kind of, you know, get in a meditative state. And, you know, you're focusing in on all your little settings and you take that snapshot, you go home, put some edits to it. And like, you got masterpieces that you could hang up. And like, that's what changed it for me. That taught me what it meant to be passionate about something. Like I was so passionate about photography. It taught me about lens angles, aperture, shutter speed, ISO, you know, all of that, and how to tell a story through still
changes
image.
that. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'll never shoot video ever again. Like I love this still photography. And of course through that, like, you know, I got into shooting supercross because I'm still coming off of that, you know, that love for moto. As soon as I got a camera, I was like, oh, I'm going to go out to the local track and shoot some stuff. I was like, yeah, this is freaking rad. I was like, I want to shoot supercross. So I started like Google searching how to get media pass for supercross. And like, I just kept getting all these like responses in my searches of like, yeah, good luck. That's like, you got a better chance of getting struck by lightning. Like you'll never get media passes. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Fuck, this is my mission. And within a year, I found myself standing on the floor of a supercross track.
Yeah.
And, you know, here are all these years I grew up like watching Crusty Demons and wanting to be like Jeremy McGrath and Kevin Windham. And so I just, you know, I didn't start racing until I was like 18. So there's no way I was ever going to make it to that level. But there I was with a camera standing like elbow to elbow with Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart, Kevin Windham. I'm like, dude, like I'm here.
That's wild.
It was so freaking cool. And, you know, developed a relationship with Racer X magazine, but that all happened because of cameras and still photography. Is like, it just taught me what it meant to be passionate about something. When you're passionate for something, it doesn't matter. Money isn't an issue. You're going to do it because you love doing it.
Sure.
And then hopefully money comes at some point. But it just taught me so much about photography, or, you know, just how cameras work, all those settings and stuff. So then in like 2000, it was 2009, I think, when I was first time on a supercross track, like standing in a stadium, like, holy shit, this is crazy.
2009. So Stu was still racing.
Yeah.
But not the two-stroke, right?
Yeah, he was on four-stroke.
He was on the four-stroke for sure. Because when did he get off the two-stroke? 2005?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. But
still, peak Stu days.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, he was on his in and out.
Yeah.
He was he'd come back and like make a flash, you know, and like be like, hell yeah, but then he'd have a good race and he'd have a few bad races. Yeah. But yeah, so still photography and like, dude, I'd go work, you know, shooting a supercross race. I'd probably shoot on a Saturday, probably like 2,500 photos. 3,000 photos and then spend all day Sunday like trying to edit it down to like 10 of your best ones so that Monday morning you could send the email off and like present it to the magazines. And Davey Coombs and Racer X Davey was the one that was willing to take a chance on me by giving me a pass. He didn't know me from nobody else. Like I had a few shots to show him.
Yep.
And he would give me a chance. And so I'd, submit him to him. And I spent probably a year doing that for no pay. I was freelance.
Oh,
so really? He would get me the pass, but I'd have to get myself to the race. I'd pay all my expenses, travel, hotel, whatever. All of it was on me. And hopefully at the end of the weekend, you can sell a photo or whatever. So I worked a year and a half.
That's how that works.
2 years. Yeah. To if you're starting off with,
Jesus,
you got to prove yourself. And it was like over a year or two before I finally got sold a photo.
So when you sell a photo, the magazine says they look at all the photos from the media past guys and they go, I'll take these 5.
Yep.
And we'll put that in the magazine.
Yeah.
And then whoever those came from, they like, hey, pay the guy.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're going to get paid on that photo ahead of time, or is there bidding, or how does that work?
No, it kind of depends. They have their rates. Like if it's a cover shot, it's going to be X. If it's depending on how big it prints, maybe they're doing a story on like Ryan Villapoto and you've got like a great shot of him sitting on his bike. So they're like, oh yeah, we need that for that. And it could be this big. It might be $50.
Yeah.
I think the first photo that I got in print was like the table of contents shot.
Okay.
It was in Las Vegas, 2010. And it was it would have been early 2010. It was the Supercross lights. Remember they did the East-West Challenge in Vegas?
Yep.
And it was the 2 number 1 Kawasaki's, 1E and 1W coming around the whole shot together. Yep. And that got like the inside table of contents page.
Sick.
And it was like $200.
You thought you hit the jackpot.
Yeah, here I worked 2 years like paying my way to get there, and I get
$200.
Yeah, it wasn't the money that mattered. It was just like, dude, that's my photo on the inside of like Racer X. And yeah. And then it was like 2 years later, like all my buddies kept saying like, dude, you used to shoot video. Like, why are you doing still photos? Like video is going to like take over photos. And I'm like, fuck video, dude. Like, I don't want anything to do with video. They kept like pushing. Come on, do it. So I had hit the Vegas Supercross, shot that still photos. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to LA because now all the pros are going to start training for the outdoors.
Yep.
And I think the first they were training at like Glen Helen and Lake Elsinore.
Yep.
So anyways, went out there and I started shooting video. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Flip it over to video. I went to Sammy's out there camera gear store and like bought like
another video camera.
I think it was like a slider and all this stuff. Anyways, I went out and shot, and all of a sudden it was cool because everything that still photos had taught me, because back before when I was shooting video, everything was on a camcorder. It was just automatic.
Yep.
Zoom and like, there was no aperture. There was no shutter speed. It was like whatever the camera did. So now with the DSLRs, like I knew aperture, shutter speed, and how it actually affected the image. So I just switched it over to video and applied everything I learned from still photos and put it to motion and started filming moto. And like, these were just practice videos from the practice sessions, and Racer X caught wind of it. And they're like, dude, why haven't you been shooting video for us? Like, you've been shooting stills for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
They're like, can you be at the first round up at Hangtown next weekend? I'm like,
yeah, let me check my schedule. Yeah, I could be there.
Yeah. And it was crazy, just out of nowhere. They were just like, dude, this is amazing. And I think probably the biggest compliment that I got from the whole thing is after like my first video that I did for Racer X of a national, Davey Coombs called me up like the next day that the video came out, and he's like, dude, I gotta say congratulations on doing such a good job. That was like a Simon Cudby level of quality.
Damn.
And like, Cudby's like, these guys like main man like for years. And I looked at I studied that guy's photos like in and out. That guy was like my idol when it came to like still photos. And so for Davey Coombs himself to call me up and be like, dude, that's a Simon Cubby level of covering an event. I'm like, that was pretty sick.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did you do video for those guys?
Probably like 2 years. 2 years, and in the meantime, I had started a documentary project.
Okay.
For the land speed racing.
Yep.
And it was covering a story of like 4 dudes from the Pacific Northwest, just average Joes that worked a job during the day. They come home at the end of the day and like build motorcycles to go race land speed. So they'd work 360 days a year to build these motorcycles. Then for 5 days, they'd go see if they could set a record.
Yep.
And these are like just class records.
This is like World Fastest Indian kind of stuff right here. Dude,
exactly, dude.
What a great story.
Oh my God. Such an inspiration.
Yeah.
I watched that film probably 5 times every year before we go film it at the Salt Flats.
Yep.
Exactly. World's Fastest Indian type stuff.
That's so cool.
And so had been doing that and had kind of realized that like with Racer X, I was always just going to be a video guy for like an online website. Whereas like chasing the documentary stuff is the opportunity to become like a filmmaker.
Yep.
You know? And so I kind of let the Racer X stuff go by the wayside and just started focusing more on the documentary stuff and started doing that. So, but yeah, I did like a couple of years of Racer X films and
dude, that's so rad.
It was a cool experience, dude. Just like, you know what it's like going to a supercross track and, you know, or any of those races, like the energy is unreal. So when you get to like be behind the scenes, like every night, and it's interesting because I got to be friends with guys that have been doing it for years. And like, you know, for Cudby, that was just a job, you know, and like every Saturday showing up at the supercross track, I was just like fucking amped, dude.
So
I was like,
pumped,
that's such a fanboy.
we did some work for the Dirtworks crew that builds all the tracks. Couple 3 years ago now, 4 years ago now, I guess. Yeah. 4, I think.
Okay.
Suspension on the van, wheels, tires, some vinyl work.
Yeah.
And he let us put our logo on it. You know, we cut him a break on the bill, and he's like, "Yeah, you can throw your logo on it. I've got the contract through 2025, so we'll just leave it on there at least that long." I was like, "Dude, that's crazy." So every single round that van sits there with adrenaline vans on it in the pits, and there's tens of thousands of people walking by. So that's pretty freaking cool. Yeah. But he goes, "Yeah, anytime you need to go to the race, you know, just hit me up. I got tickets for you." Damn. So we've always gone when there's Supercross in Denver or Rice Cycles here in Salt Lake.
Oh yeah.
At least those 2 rounds, just go check it out and hang out, and it's so cool because for those guys, it's a job. Yeah. It is fucking work. Yeah. Building that track, tearing it down, maintaining it. So. And usually those 2 rounds are near the end of the season. So when we see those guys, like, I'm like, whoa, yeah, fuck yeah, pumped for Supercross. It's Supercross, baby. And they're just ready to be done. It's the last 2 rounds of the season. They're so burnt out. Yeah. You know, 7 dudes been sleeping in the same Airbnb together the whole year. They just hate each other, right? They're just ready to be done. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of funny seeing that for them, it's just all normal. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, hey, come on back here. You get kind of all access. Same deal. Cool. You're under the stands. You're eating with the crew. You're hanging out with everybody. Yeah. You know, you're like, oh, hey, what's up, Eli? You know? Yeah. Oh, there goes Sexton. He just like walks by. It's kind of surreal. Yeah. You're really fanboying out. And it's just so normal for these guys. Yeah. They're like, hey, you want to come down to the podium celebration afterwards? I'm like, yeah, sure. You go, okay, head down here as soon as the checker is flown. Yeah. And you walk down, and then next thing you know, you're standing out there with the crew, watching the guys film the championship winner. Yeah. You know, and you're like, hey, buddy. It's just so like, what the heck?
It's a crazy experience for sure.
So cool.
Especially after like spending so much time just watching it on TV, you know, or on, you know, movies and videos and whatever. It's a surreal experience for sure.
Yeah. You can smell it and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I did it for, you know, several years, and you know, I still wasn't like full-time in the industry. Like I still had other jobs, and, you know, for a portion of that, I was still working my full-time job. So it was like, get out on the weekends and go to the races, like when I could. And so, you know, for those guys that were doing every single round all through Supercross, then you jump right into the outdoors. Yep. Like I could see how those guys get burned out. And that's just working as like media, photographer, filmmaker.
Imagine being the racer.
That's what I was going to say.
Or the mechanic. Yeah. I mean, god damn.
Yeah.
gnarly.
The training, like the dedication that those riders have to have, like
Yep.
you got to stay in shape, you got to eat good. There's no breaks. Like,
Yeah, and when you're on track, I think this is what maybe gets overlooked is the mental component to it.
yeah,
When I was road racing, you go spend a weekend road racing. By the end of the weekend, you are mentally fried from processing that data so
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
for so long, right?
Yeah.
And then all of the, the excitement and the stress of it all and the whole weekend, it just really wears on you and you're just done.
Yeah.
And I was road racing, maybe 10 events a year.
Yeah.
These guys are riding, 17 rounds of Supercross. How many outdoors are there?
11.
11?
I think so. Yeah,
Plus
11,
whatever
10.
other, world races now that there's super motocross.
Yeah.
Plus all the practice and training that are still riding at a very, very high level. Like,
Yeah.
dude, that's got to be. It's no wonder people burn out.
Well, I think the first few times that I had the opportunity to start like walking the track, because the riders would do their track walk early Saturday. So as photographers, well, for me, I didn't really care about getting the shots. I just wanted to be there walking on the track. And I think that's when I really started having an appreciation of the talent that these guys have. When you're walking up the face of like the finish line and you can't even walk up the face, you're on your hands and knees like climbing up it, and then the whoop sections, like these guys aren't fucking around.
No.
And those guys are just, what always blew me away is that every weekend these guys show up to a brand new track, they walk it, but they come right out and just start hitting every single jump.
Yeah.
Perfect. They've blows me away.
No. I'll go to Leadville and it's a very vet friendly track.
Yeah.
and I still roll everything for a few laps.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had the opportunity of like rolling through or riding a purpose built Supercross track or anything like that?
No, dude. No, just walked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where like some local people had decided, hey, we're going to build this motocross complex. We're going to have a Supercross track. And those places always pop up. They only last like a month or two and then they just fade away. But there was a couple times going out and like, oh, let's go roll the Supercross track. And now it's not built by Dirtworks or anything like that, but still like very Supercrossy and like couldn't even jump two of the whoops. It's like, nah, fuck this. Like,
yeah, and then we'll be watching the race on TV. You're like, that pussy's jumping the whoops again. What's Webb doing? Jumping the whoops. Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, those guys are gnarly. I think that it's so overlooked how athletic they are.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a sport out there that's the same. Like it's nearly that physically and mentally taxing at the same time.
Well, and what's interesting too is like looking at the history of it, and I think people always kind of say that Jeremy McGrath kind of changed that game. Mm-hmm. He was the first one that wasn't out partying all the time. He actually put focus into his like fitness, his health and fitness to perform good on Saturday, and like everybody had to start stepping up the game. Yeah,
I mean, because before that, you like Rick Johnson days and Bob Hanna, and I mean those dudes were partying pretty hard.
Yeah, you just show up and like we'll race, and whoever wins. Yeah, it seems like with Jeremy McGrath, then it changed, and then there was everybody that followed that, and look at it now, dude.
I'm glad that they're finally starting to publish like people's weight, what people are earning. Like, they're starting to talk about it more. It's not really published, right?
Yeah,
but now they're starting to talk about it more. Like, hey, this dude's probably making this many million for Honda this year. Yeah, that win bonuses were like Ricky on the broadcast will be talking and be like, that win's like 50 grand right there just from the manufacturer. What they actually start talking about the money, so people are now seeing there's real money involved in this sport. Yeah, just like what these F1 drivers are making, what these football players are making, the baseball, right? But Supercross, motocross, nobody talks about it. Yeah. Nobody talks about their injuries. Nobody talks about what they make. So I'm glad that that's kind of getting out there now because I think it's opening people's eyes to the fact that this is a real sport. Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely. Real money on the line and real consequence if you mess it up. Yeah. I mean, it's a gnarly sport. Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting too is like these riders seem to be almost farmed or groomed from such a young age. Yeah. And I get it, like a lot of all these racers throughout history,
had some sort of bringing up around motorcycles, but now it's like, these moto dads.
I feel like now if you if your dad didn't say my kid's going to be a potential Supercross champion from birth, like you probably aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really up to the kids. I mean, obviously the kids could make some decisions and go, yeah, I don't really want to go racing. But if their parents hadn't have said, you are doing this from the time you can walk all the way through high school, like they would never be at the level that these kids are now.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, look at the 250s. Look at the guys coming up now.
Yeah. Well, imagine being like Hayden Deegan.
Dude.
Like growing up around Brian Deegan, one of the more iconic, just crazy and like.
And you're expected to kind of, follow that a bit. Yeah, you think we forget how long that kid's really been in the limelight. I mean, Danger Boy Deegan on YouTube was a thing for a lot of years before he started racing professionally.
Well, I remember when I was filming stuff for Racer X and at the Supercrosses, they used to have the little KTM 50, and I don't know if they still do it.
They do.
They do, the little KTM
the junior
exhibition
cup,
thing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and Deegan was on one of those. That would have been 2012.
Dude, those kids
13?
now, you watch them go out and they're doubling stuff. They're
really
jumping shit. I mean, it's gnarly on this little KTM.
Yeah, it used to be like you show up like Saturday, and if you like wanted to ride a bike, you could sign up for it, and they'd let you go ride around. But now it's almost like they're trained to go out and ride those 50, the 50 races or little.
Yeah, I just see all that stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, man! Imagine if I would have started riding at that age, and riding consistently. If you had that opportunity, what could I have done?
Yeah. Or would you have wanted to? Like,
I don't know. I just feel like, it's got to be hard. It's got to be like the kids that are Olympic gymnasts or something, right? Their parents just, you're going to go to gym class. That's what you do.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to party. No, you're not eating pizza. It'd be tough.
I just started catching wind of everybody talking about this Jet Lawrence kid.
Oh, you've been following lately?
No, it's been a while since I've followed who's actually racing and kicking ass. I've been hearing Jet Lawrence, but I really probably with reigniting all my interest again in moto was paying attention and just hearing how people are talking about this kid that this kid's probably one of the greatest riders ever to be in the sport, which is crazy. Like where did that come from?
Yeah. I mean, same deal though. Him and his brother, since tiny little kids, rode motorcycles together. Yeah. I mean, it was very, I feel like it was pretty purpose built, if you will. Yeah. From childhood. Yeah. But yeah, incredible talent for sure. But yeah, they've been crushing it the last few years. Yeah. Jet's really done well. I mean, obviously he's got a long ways to go to catch these records, Ricky and Stu and McGrath and all that, but he's doing extremely well. And last year he went undefeated in outdoors.
That's insane.
23-0.
Who was the last one to do that? Was Ricky, wasn't it? Wasn't he 24-0 though?
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But and everybody's like, oh well, some of the good guys were hurt and all that, and there's some truth to that. But dude, I don't that is insane. Yeah. That's crazy impressive. And this year he's had some more competition for sure. Yeah. But everybody's just leveled up to, I mean, to watch those guys ride now is so wild. And what's really interesting is talking or listening to some of the guys of our era talk. I was watching Gypsy Tales. Oh yeah. And he was interviewing Villo, and he's like, hey, what's it like comparing when you were a junior to now? And he goes, you can't even compare. You can't even compare the kids now. He's like, I was riding because it was fun and my dad wanted me to go race dirt bikes. That's kind of we're going to go racing. We're going to kind of take it serious. Kids now, this is all you do. You are homeschooled, you ride, you train. That's just it. Yeah. And they are in completely different league than when they were kids.
Well, and when Villapoto came out, was kind of winning all the races. He was almost seemed like one of that first generation that had grown up with a moto dad that just constantly pushing him, ride.
Yeah.
You know, he was a Washington guy. And so when I was racing, you'd hear the name over the loudspeaker, Villapoto, like he was racing 60s and shit like that. But then, yeah, you know, and what's interesting, I was listening to Gypsy Tales again, and I think he had Davey Coombs on. And so, which was really cool, like listening, that guy's got so much history in the sport for years. Going back, they were talking about all these different riders, and it dawned on me that like Villapoto doesn't really get talked much about anymore. Like you always hear like, oh, Carmichael, and oh, Stewart, and oh, Chad Reed, and you don't ever really hear about Villapoto brought up very much. And at one point, dude, he was like one of the most winning Supercross racers and outdoor racers. And then he just kind of was like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. And I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like you hear that name pop up too much anymore.
No, not too much. I mean, he's still around for sure.
Yeah.
I saw him at X Games a few years back on the snow bike. Doing snow bike stuff.
Yeah.
He's definitely still around, definitely very active with Yamaha.
Yep.
Which is cool to see him doing that. But he's definitely not in the limelight like Stu is now, or Carmichael for sure. And then of course McGrath with all the tech stuff in Supercross.
Yeah.
But remember, Stu was in like completely off the radar for a long time.
Disappeared. People were like,
gone.
Where is he?
Nothing.
What is he doing?
Yeah, it was like it was a whole thing. Remember Pulp? You know, he was like the Where's Stu? You know, it's like Where's Waldo, but it was like Where's Stu? And I don't know, they had a whole thing going for years.
Wow.
And then finally he emerges and comes out with those couple videos where he's, you know, it's in the dark and the shadows, and he's talking about why he just walked away.
That was like a Verb Moto, wasn't it? Was that a Verb Moto thing?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was weird though. I remember watching it. It was not polished. It was very raw, and it was only his responses. You couldn't hear any of the questions, you know, and it was dark and dingy, and it was weird. Yeah. And
it was weird how it just kind of disappeared. Like,
he'd gained a bunch of weight and all this, and now he's finally come back around to the sport, and he's in the broadcast, and he's super skinny again, and it's wild.
It's a crazy story, dude. I remember 2003 we were in Vegas just watching as a spectator, and that was his first debut on 125s.
Oh wow.
And it just came out just getting ripping. You know, there's been so much hype of him coming into the sport, and he just took it by storm. Everybody, you know, was just the fastest rider on the planet.
Yeah. The guy was fast.
Yeah. It was just crazy. I just came out of nowhere. Well, and kind of all three of those guys. Remember back in was that the Terra Firma movies where it was Ricky, Travis, and Stewart. You know, they were all kids, and those guys were hyped. It's crazy. Like, it's cool to see what Pastrana's done with his career, but as a racer, like, didn't quite.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Yeah,
he wasn't at that level.
Yeah,
but he couldn't have timed it better. Everything he did is so freaking perfect, and his personality is just perfect for it. Yeah. But like YouTube coming on board, or like becoming a thing in whatever it was, 2004. Yeah. And him like realizing, I'm not really at that level for racing, but I like to jump and do crazy stuff, and now we can record it and show people this. The Nitro Circus thing, all of that shit, it's just wild. Yeah. It's super cool to see. Yeah. He's one dude, you know, I'm not really like starstruck by a bunch of guys, but there's a few guys out there I'm like, that'd be cool to go hang with that dude for a weekend. Pastrana would be one of them for sure. Yeah. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, it'd just be like chaos the entire time. I don't think that guy's ever slowed down.
Peer pressured into doing some really dumb shit for sure.
Yeah. I think some of the glory days of racing, especially in Supercross, was when like Chad Reed, Ricky Carmichael, and James Stewart were all battling.
There was they hated each other there.
Yeah. They hated each other. And there were sometimes they would battle so hard they would lap back all the way to like third place.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. There's some race, I can't remember what year it is, 07 maybe, but you can watch it on YouTube, and it's just unbelievable. It's like Stu and Carmichael battling. They'd lap the whole field, and they're just like trying to murder each other out there. It's so crazy. Yeah. You don't see that these days. Yeah. No.
Yeah. I think it was Davey Coombs again on Gypsy Tales, but talking about Jet Lawrence and the fact that he knows just how fast to go to win the race. He's got the speed where he could lap all the way up to
He's very good at managing that lead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas like it doesn't matter how far you win ahead, you're still getting paid the same.
Yep.
So why go out and kill yourself, potentially throw the race away, or just, okay, I know I'm like 2 turns ahead of that guy. I'll just hold my pace here. Whereas like Stewart, Carmichael, Reed, anytime those guys were in their glory days, they would just put laps down on everybody.
Yeah, which I kind of like, actually.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
I remember racing the Supermoto National in Texas. This would have been 2016, 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had won the championship in Utah, Supermoto championship that year.
Yeah.
And I was fast.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Right. At the state level. Okay. At the Utah level.
Yeah.
And then I go down there and it was basically a dirt track with like a tiny little shitty piece of asphalt.
Okay.
I'm a road racer, dude. So like I'm way faster on the asphalt than on the dirt.
Yeah.
Hence the Asphalt Boy Instagram where everybody's making fun of my dirt skills, lack thereof.
Yeah.
So we get to Texas and it's hot as fuck. And it's pretty much an all dirt track with like chip seal, really terrible chip seal pavement.
Yeah.
And so a lot of guys are running rain tires or like they're cutting slicks, putting a bunch of grooves
you can't
in their
run
slicks.
knobbies, right? Like,
I mean, you could, but you'd have no traction on the asphalt and you'd need it still.
Yeah.
So like everybody's grooving up their slicks to, it's mostly just a dirt track and there's like a lot of really flat sections and really loose shit. And I was not good on a supermoto in the dirt. Like I'm still not that great on dirt compared to, like a guy that grew up racing motocross. So I went out there and I got lapped by the leader like twice. And this is a short race and this kid is so freaking fast, and you're just going, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really embarrassing. Like I just won the championship and I just got lapped twice.
Yep.
That just shows you how good those guys that grew up in the dirt are.
Yeah.
At what they do.
Well, I remember too, there's a whole perspective of how fast kids are across the country, and Loretta Lynn's is kind of like the proving grounds for that. But then there's all the original qualifiers for that. But racing up in Washington, there's not a ton of fast guys. And a lot of that just because of the weather, because there's only a small weather window of like really good riding.
Yep.
And so I remember my only experience was like racing at the local track, but then you'd go to Washougal for the amateur days. And in amateur days, you get people from the region, maybe as far west as east as like Montana, some Northern California, Nevada. Sure. But kids would show up and you'd have a full 40-man gate, even just like 250 junior. And, you come from Washington where you're like winning races. Northwest Washington winning races, you go to amateur days on a 40-man gate and you're like
out the back,
last out the corner, the first corner, and you're just like, oh my God, dude. Like, okay. Yeah. It really is like humbling, put you in your place of like, okay, cool. I thought I was like doing pretty good, but like you get up some of these other kids from, and that's not even, I couldn't even imagine going to Loretta Lynn's, like, especially these days.
Yeah. And there's so many people that go too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think, any sort of professional sport, professional athletic endeavor, you have to start so young, and it's still such a tiny little margin, the guys that make it.
Yeah. I think that's, you got to be passionate about whatever the hell it is that you're doing if you're going to make it through all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing I've figured out is like, if you don't love it, you're just going to give up on it.
Right.
You got to be passionate about whatever the hell it is you're going to do.
Right.
Because the money's not always there, and money doesn't make everything. You got to have that passion to push you through when there's no money or anything else paying off for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, man.
Time for bed.
That was like a moto podcast there.
Yeah, we're going to title this like, hey, if you don't like moto, just don't watch this. No, it's awesome. I haven't had anybody on that like knew or that was involved in the sport at all and like knew names and stuff. So this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Talon, he's got some bikes he likes to ride and everything, but
Yeah.
he's not that big into racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea you did all that stuff for the industry. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. That was super fun. It was definitely some dreams come true. And yeah, that's like even just looking at comments on the posts recently of the moto.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I didn't realize you rode moto. I was like, actually, like kind of most of
Yeah.
my life was based
Yeah.
around motorcycles.
Isn't it funny how that happens too? You kind of get into your, like what you think your brand expects, and then
Yeah.
you kind of get away from your roots.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this when we were camping and riding. Actually, I started the company very much oriented on moto vans, because
Yeah.
that's why I got into the industry, was because vans enabled me to go ride and race motorcycles all over the country very easily.
Yeah.
And I started building those vans, building moto vans, and then that kind of just morphed as the business changed and shifted, and we pivoted and went to just doing upgrades and performance and maintenance and stuff. You kind of get away from that whole moto thing, and then of course as a business owner, not having any time, you just get away from riding, and you
Yeah.
kind of just lose that little bit.
Yeah.
And I've got customers now that I'm sure have no idea that I ride motorcycles, because they come in and they meet me and they're like, oh yeah, you're Tim from the YouTube and whatever, blah blah blah. Oh, you ride motorcycles? And for me, I'm like, dude, of course it's literally in my blood. I mean, of course I ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
But I don't tell that story nearly as much as I would like, because it's I don't get obviously the time to do it, and then I feel like I probably shouldn't post photos of a bunch of bikes or stories of being out on the bikes or whatever, because it doesn't look like the van shit that people are wanting to see.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned to push that feeling off now. Just like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's adrenaline HQ, baby. So it is what it is. There's no
right.
van in it now, so I
Yeah.
can post whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
But yeah, just embracing it and letting people see that passion, because yeah, I definitely get burned out if I'm just talking about vans all the time.
Yeah.
I think that, with anything really.
Yeah.
But if you talk about vans allowing you to go out and ride motorcycles, well, then it's a whole different story. Or
Well, I think that's where I'm at too with the whole channel. Just burned out of just, like I said earlier, making the same van video over and over again. And the moto, it's reigniting a passion that I've always had in motorcycles, but just never came through. And what I've been doing on the van channel,
right.
And the little bit that I've posted about moto stuff on the van channel, not necessarily the channel as in YouTube, but on the Instagram, but actually pleasantly surprised that people are like, ooh, I can't wait for this. Like I always thought like motos be a great mix in what you do. So, which is cool. It's inspiring to hear that, because there's been times where I've introduced other things and people are like, I didn't come here to watch that.
Right.
I came here to watch fan stuff. So
yeah, that's
I was
funny.
already kind of prepared for this.
It's really, really interesting how like you build something up. Like I've built a business, you built a brand and a following, and you feel like you get painted into a corner of what people expect and what you think that they want to see. And then that kind of just squashes your like creativity.
Yeah.
And yeah, then it really becomes a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I love taking photos, but also how many photos can you take of somebody's vehicle and make it, enjoyable to look at and make it different, or make it, I don't know, stand out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you, and then you don't do the photos with the bikes, and you don't do the photos out doing that thing and showcasing that stuff, because you don't want people to think, oh, you're getting away from your roots, and I don't want to follow this company because they're not focused or something like that. I don't know what, just talking through it now, sitting here talking about it sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just fucking post photos of what the hell I'm into?
Yeah.
And just roll with it.
Yeah.
And who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. It almost needs to get to that point. And it's hard because so much today is all about branding, whether you have a business, a YouTube channel.
It's got to be on brand. It's got to be consistent. It's got to, fucking everything has to, it's just so regimented, and it has to be just a certain way, or you're going to lose your following. You're going to lose your loyal subscribers or whatever.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think that's one thing I've thought a little bit about on doing this whole like moto thing is as soon as I get into like trying to film stuff with it, then is that going to turn into a job? Just like what the van life stuff has done. Like, you know, we were talking about earlier about wanting to be inspired to go take photos.
Yeah.
I want to be inspired to go shoot a cool van life video. I don't want to just go do it because, well,
it's time. I got to put
due
content
next week.
up.
I got to go. Like,
Yep.
So I don't want the moto thing. I'm wary about the moto thing becoming that job again versus like, don't film it. Just go out and enjoy it. But it's still that creative fire burning inside me that I just want to be creative and I want to create shit about stuff that I'm passionate about.
Yep.
You know, vans, overlanding, no, moto stuff. And that was a cool thing about doing all the supercross stuff and you know, stuff that I loved, and I was doing it with a camera. So
yeah,
combining everything. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that it's just important to do whatever the hell you want and not just get stuck into this rut of trying to be on brand all the time.
Yeah.
Sure, you're gonna lose some followers that, you know, I only showed up for the van stuff.
Yeah.
But also who really cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. The ones that really matter will be the ones that will be there no matter what.
Yeah.
You know.
And maybe too, like we obviously your brand has been a thing for a long time now, and our business has been around for several years. You know, people know what we do.
Yeah.
And so if you sprinkle in some moto stuff here and there, or some car racing or whatever, it's not like, oh, they don't do vans anymore. I think it'll be just fine.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe when you're starting out, it can be confusing to people if you're kind of all over the place. But
it'll all work out in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, so when are we going to ride again?
Soon. Whenever we want to.
Yeah. Dude, maybe this weekend.
Yeah.
Are you around? You're not taking off that far?
No. I'm going to be between now and whenever I'll be up Uray, but that's 20 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think you can take the 501 on the motocross track?
Yeah.
Love it. Fuck yeah.
Why not?
I think it'd be fine.
Yeah. No, there was a guy on YouTube that was racing his out on the track.
Can you leave the Moscow bags on there, please, when you do it?
all filled out with all the packing.
And a number plate. Please put a number plate on it.
And the headlight. With blinkers and horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
I don't know. No, it'd be fun to ride this weekend. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't really have set plans yet, so.
Yeah, what is today?
Today's Tuesday the 3rd. No, the 2nd.
Wow,
so yeah,
we're in July.
Yeah, so we're closed the 4th and the 5th for the holiday, and of course then the weekend. So 4-day weekend.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why this week's so cram packed with.
So that means up the mountains going to be crazy, anyways. I think I need to go do my thing in the mountains during the weekday.
Yeah, you don't want to be up in Uray on 4th of July weekend.
No.
Uray's got like a big fireworks thing up there, and I mean it's cool to hang out up there if you want to be around a bunch of people.
Yeah. Now, usually when I go to film something, I want to be nobody around, which is nice. Yeah.
Uray's cool for the 4th. Last year we did the parade.
Yeah.
So with the fire trucks and all that stuff, and I took the big Giga wagon with the train horn.
Hell
just like, I got Karens emailing me afterwards, bitching about the horn, and I'm like, the fucking fire truck is trying to blow your child off the road with the fire hose, and you're gonna complain about my train horn?
That's freaking hilarious.
And the Thunderbirds just flew over, and you're complaining about my train horn. You know?
That did Thunderbirds fly over?
Yeah, dude. So
no way.
cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Because Colorado Springs just over the mountains.
Yeah.
So I feel like they just ripped over and did a whole bunch of different little town flyovers, maybe. But it was super cool.
They just did one big circuit.
Dude, there was the last guy that flew over was freaking low through the valley, right over town. It was so awesome.
That would be a crazy spot to fly a jet through.
More America than just standing there with a good low flyby. It's fucking awesome.
That's cool.
Especially, if you're an aviation guy.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah.
Uray reminds me of like a Disneyland set. The way it's like.
Yeah, little sleepy little mountain town.
Yeah, and just the way those mountains are, and like certain times of the year, there's the waterfall. Like, looks like it's painted in Disneyland or something.
Yep.
Cool spot.
It is a cool spot.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
where Will lives.
Oh, okay, nice. I had forgot that this weekend was 4th of July. I was thinking about earlier today. I was like, yeah, I definitely need to go hit those mountains up there on a weekday, just so it's quiet.
Yep.
But 4th of July weekend, that's going to be insane.
Probably going to be a lot of guys up there camping and four-wheeling and drinking and stuff.
Yeah. So really, I think I got a few more pieces of gear coming in, and then so maybe we just go ride somewhere on the weekend. Fun.
That'd be fun.
Hell
Just do some chill camping away from people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you have more mail here. Like, I thought this was the freaking Chad's house for a second.
Is there more?
I don't know. I gotta ask Carl. But every day for a while, he was just like, "Chad, got some more shit over here." There's like a whole shelf of just Chad stuff.
Well, like normally it's like no big deal. I don't usually have anything going, but like trying to gear up for this whole moto thing, like I realized I set my mind on like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I need in order to do what I want to do.
Yep.
And so I started in California, like, okay, order. I'm like, I can't fucking be in California anymore. I gotta get on the road. And so, finding a spot is like, that's where I hit you up. And at that time I was like, oh yeah, it'd be like, I need 1 or 2 packages. And then I was like, well, I need this and this and this and this. I'm like, fuck, I hope Tim doesn't care.
So much.
Mail delivery. Dude, shit. That actually could be, think of all the van nomads that you know.
Can we just say that, hey, for the record, don't send your shit here.
I was going to say.
No.
You could like offer that as a service. Kind of like how you store people's vans.
Sure. There's going to be a price tag associated with it.
Well, yeah, of course.
I got to pay guys to deal with that.
Yeah.
No, don't send your stuff here, please. Stop.
Hilarious.
Yeah. We get some weird shit that comes in the mail.
Oh, yeah.
Like arts and crafts and weird interior shit, and it's got somebody else's name on it. And of course Carl opens it and he's like, dude, did you order this? And I'm like, what? And we got to track down the customer and figure out who it was for and all that. And then the best part is they're like, oh yeah, I got that on Etsy. I was hoping you could put it in my van.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, they want you to install it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's cool.
The answer is no.
Can you bedazzle my dash for me? I could get a bedazzle kit.
Put your succulent farm on your dash.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, no. Cool.
Good podcast.
Yeah, bro. Good
That was
times.
fun.
Thanks for being on. Let's go ride.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right,
Let's
later.
do it. Peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.